Welcome one, welcome all. For some of you, welcome back to SimSpeed TV. This is the final 3 hours of the Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12-hour. We brought you the first 3 hours this morning, and now we're taking you to the finish here at the Mount Panorama circuit. Fantastic to see that we still have a lot of cars running in this race, and it's still just as close as it's always been, with a lot of safety cars affecting the action in the intervening 6 hours, including one just before we went live. To bring it to you all here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, any video streaming platform you desire, is myself, Reese Gardner. I'm joined by Wilco from the Locked On Lads podcast. Now, this is going to be an interesting one here, Wilco. Jumping straight in, we've just come off a safety car, and we've got plenty to dissect from the intervening 6 hours. First off, we've got this replay here of another problem for an Evolution Racing Team McLaren. Once again, proving that the McLaren is a difficult car to drive at the best of times.
It definitely is. We've had a very interesting couple of hours we haven't been, but that's a roadblock. There's not much more we can say about that, Reese. That's caused a lot of damage for a lot of cars, and unfortunately affects the 12-hour race pretty badly. But those McLarens, you can see why. I've been driving the BMW a little bit in the off break today between broadcasts, and it's a lot easier to get that BMW around this mountain, I can guarantee you. But yeah, that's just one of the incidents we've missed while we've been away, Reese.
Yep, there was also this on the start as well. The TriStar Ferrari getting caught right in the middle of some confusion here on the restart just before we went live. And that's a big problem for them. They have lost their front bumper from that. The incident that happened for the ERT McLaren that we just saw, that has unfortunately taken out the 105 HTS Racing yellow BMW. We do still have one car more than a lap down out there at the moment, but we have unfortunately lost the 105 HTS Racing yellow car. The Rapid Theft Racing 14, Team Jinx Shifters number 52, Fishy Motorsports 808, the DG Motorsports number 6 car, the Frog League Juice Racing Red 97, and the Mac 1 Esports 333 Lamborghini. So the retirement list has grown, but we still have the majority of cars out on track at the moment, and there's plenty to dissect on the way to the finish of this 12-hour race. We focus in on the Crisscross Racing second car, the number 51. They managed to work their way up to 5th here. Oh, 6th, sorry. They've just lost a position, it seems, to Wayne Burke in the Synergy Sim Racing Wave Runner, number 89 car, which has been running up the front pretty much the whole way. We get another replay here of what happened to the Jinx Shifters Ferrari here. Hins, Loxton and King unfortunately having coming together at the final corner on previous safety car restart, and that has torn up the left front suspension, so that car was not able to continue.
It is a shame to see so many cars dropping up. That's what we're here for. We're here for the endurance racing, the cars that can make it to the end. You mentioned Crisscross Racing. That's a great job from them being up to 6. We saw them get into the quali. We got to see them in the top 10, top 15 shootout, and now they're sitting 6th in this great field of cars, which is a mammoth effort. There's a few other ones down below, 9.5 Sim 90, the 952 there with Brady Rathu in the moment. He's up 7. They're up 7 positions into 12th at the moment. So while we have lost some cars, we are seeing some great stories of some cars that are surviving and getting through and keeping their car straight. I believe that's one of the other bits that we need to inform some people about is obviously a lot of cars have used their spare car in the garage from incidents that have happened, and now they're obviously out of the race because of them not having a spare car. But some of those league cars still have some of their spare cars ready to go at any moment's notice if something does go horribly wrong, Reese.
We're also joined for the time being by Scott Rankin, who joined us for the race start coverage. And we'll have a look at this, Scott. A little bit of a run in here with lapped cars. The number 44 actually no longer a lap down. Remember, at the start of the race, Scott, there was a big incident at the chase for the number 44, and they went a lap down. So fortunately for them, they've managed to stick it out. They currently run in 19th, which is really awesome to see. Yeah, they have just lost a position there to the Taipan Esports 268, who's recovering from an earlier incident, but great to see them still out there.
No, I don't think we've got Scott at the moment.
There we go. There we go.
We got him. Go, Scotty.
Yeah, look, I think one of the kickers is that if you think about things, that 44 car lost their spare car on lap 1 of the race. So it's been a very long day for them to get back to where they were. I think they were, 3 laps down at one point? They were in a disastrous straits right at the start of the thing. But to see them up and about and to see them kicking around, phenomenal drive by them. I'm actually really, really impressed with the work that they've done. There's quite a few cars that have fallen by the wayside there. Remember we talked about the 52 car as well with the contact that they had on lap 1. They definitely had rear camber damage. Look, I mean, 2 different stories there. The 44 continues. It's the first car to go 1 lap down, first car to burn its fast repair. They're back up there. They're back in contention. 52 car, they ripped the sickest handbraking of the day, but not surviving any longer.
Here's a replay for the Grey pair and Paul Nichols, the DG Motorsports Mercedes, having a bit of a wiggle there in the S's and clobbering the wall into the dipper for good measure. That is yet another problem for that car after they faced plenty. They're actually involved in an incident that brought out a safety car, and oh my goodness, that is a big issue at the chase there. Not too sure what car that was, but that has unfortunately put that BMW, it looks like the WMB Sim Sports machine, out of contention there. That was a big off at the chase, and it looks like that was contact with Brad Ratu in the 9.5 Sim Sport 952. And that was at one of the highest speed points on the circuit. Real big shame to see, but that is just the way it goes sometimes. We're also joined by Braden Martin, another one of the Locked On Lads guys. Braden, I'm looking forward to having you in the box here for this final 3 hours of the race, because there's plenty of action to come. We almost need 4 people to dissect it as we check out the replay of that incident for the WMB BMW.
Another person with mic failure.
Look at that broadcast. I just want to quickly, just going back up. We had a man in the booth this morning talking about all things racing. Young Daniel Yeaman sitting 4th at the moment on track, sporting the DB. Oh, here we go. Hold on. I won't talk about him. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, that's the number 26 race on Oscar. They were running in 8th, and unfortunately, they have come unstuck in quite a massive way in the S's. Fortunately, they've avoided collecting anyone else. It looks to me like that is that's a very similar thing to what happened to one of the Ferraris earlier in the race, just catching the dip wrong, coming into the S's, and the car was just completely gone.
That's the second time I've seen it do a massive 360 like that in the air today, because I remember watching the broadcast this morning. They did it on the way up the hill. They got that little part wrong just after the cutting and hit the front end and spun it around. So that might be the end of that race as well. But yeah, back to the cars in front. Like I said, Daniel Yeaman down 1 spot to 4th at the moment. Done a commentary gig this morning and still racing very well this afternoon in contention for that podium. The field is nice and tight at the moment. It's a lot closer up the front than it was looking like it was going to be this morning. And we've got a replay here of the crisscross. Oh, just happened. Crisscross into the wall. This is going to...
Oh, see the left rear. It has got massive amounts of toe in way too much to be anywhere near drivable. The 22's already suffered quite a few issues today, and that just compounds it for them. That is heartbreaking for that car. Yet more repairs that they're going to have to take. But Scott, look at this. This is the battle for the lead. Team PGZ, they have been running at or near the front for the majority of this race. And well and truly at the front was the number 36 for pretty much the whole race as well. But it looks like they've come under some threat here from Simon Nicholson with Alexander Bird behind the wheel of the BMW.
Well, that's what we covered in the early opening of things. Is I was actually a little bit worried about the way the 36 was just leaping away under cold course conditions. And that said to me that maybe that's where their car was really suited. They're going to struggle now. We're under 3 laps to go. The track's not going to cool off anywhere near as much as it was towards the start of the race. So that really starts to make me think maybe this Ferrari is in a little bit of a better race pace situation. Now they've worked their way in. Still 21 degrees. Sorry, that was this morning's conditions. Yeah, I was about to say. I'm pretty sure it's a little bit warmer than that out on the track at the moment. Indeed it is, because that's from this morning's session. But very worried for what may happen to this BMW as the race continues. They're still holding track position. They're still quick at this point in time. But is that car starting to fade? Is the Ferrari starting to come on strong?
Yeah, that's the big question. You can see that the track temp has absolutely soared now that the sun is high in the sky. We were looking at track temperatures of about 21 degrees Celsius when we got things started. Now that has more than doubled. So definitely the drivers will be dealing with potential for overheating tyres here as we can bring Braden Martin in. Well, Braden, plenty of battles going on throughout this field. That brilliant 2-car fight for the lead, and then this 5-car fight for second. Ben Holliday is at the wheel of the drop bearing Cosi 692, and followed by his teammate Dan Yeaman in the Ferrari, but they have got the car that started in third running just behind them. So this is going to be an interesting battle.
Yeah, exactly right. I had a little bit of GoXLR problems there, decided it didn't want to play, but they are certainly starting to play a little bit more at the front of this race, and just under 3 hours to go. It's going to be just as exciting as that first 3 hours was.
Yeah, it is. Have a look at these guys streaming their way down to Forest Elbow. Looks like a little bit of extra pace for Ben Holliday coming through and out of the elbow. It looks like Dan Yeaman might be in a little bit of trouble here from the BMWs behind him, but we'll see how things go. He's still close enough to Holliday that he is able to catch the slipstream and make sure that the gap to the BMW behind is increased. And Ben Holliday, one of the younger competitors in this field, Scott, only 14 years of age. We've had a bit of a resurgence of very young sim racers in AusNZ leagues. I think about the Phoenix Racing team in V8 Scops, very young drivers at the wheel of that car. So Ben Holliday is right in the thick of it now, in third, and fighting hard.
Yeah, and everything that these guys have been doing is now working towards this. We talked about the John Merritt Echuca Toyota and the drive that they were on early on. They were in a really good spot. There's a number of drivers up and down the field, particularly those younger drivers. That's what I'm really looking for, is because if they're in a position at the back end of a day like this, that says that they're on. That says that they're paying attention to everything that they're taking in through the wheel, the steering, the spotters around them, the crew around them, all of the setup, all of the practice and those sorts of things. It's one thing to go out and be fast. It's another thing entirely to do that for 9 and a bit hours now, you know, and across different drivers, working with different drivers. And another big thing is attitude and how do they respond to the little things that go wrong in endurance racing as you see a change of position.
Yep, that's the Pulsar Chuka Toyota, number 64, making their way past Scott Stevens in the ANZ Motorsports number 7. And it looks like Stevens will be coming up on a battle with his former teammate at Fusion Sim Racing, Lockhart Brownlee, in the Taipan Esports 268 BMW. Nice battle here for 12th, 13th, and 14th on the road. Interesting to note that Pulsachuca Toyota McLaren is down where it is. It was one of those cars that was running close to the front very early on, but they suffered issues in the mid-phase of the race, which means they are not able to race in the same position they're in. Obviously, I'm still waking up from a midday nap. You can see the amount of marbles that have been thrown down here as well, Braden. 12 hours of racing definitely puts some rubber beads off the racing line and makes it very difficult to recover if you go off the racing line.
Yeah, and it's something you need to take note of, because it's not only if you make a mistake and you end up out on the marbles, it can also be if you try and go for an overtaking maneuver and you just get a little bit outside that racing line, and there's absolutely no grip when you get crossed over onto those marbles until you clear your tires off. Following on from what Scott was saying earlier about the age of some of the drivers, you'd generally think that an endurance race would be more of an older, experienced type driver's sort of forte, with lots of concentration needed, experience obviously being super handy. But it's good to see some of the young guys flying the flag.
Through goes the number 89 Synergy Sim Racing BMW. They've just passed Dan Yeaman in the DB Beyond Blue Ferrari. And so now there is one less bit of help that Ben Holiday will have to keep all those cars behind him. Let's just ride on board here, Wilco, through the top of the mountain section. In a GT3 car, this is almost flat out, this whole section. All you need to do is just lift a little into McPhillamy Park and you're good, but it's still edge of your seat stuff.
Yeah, there is one line you really need to get through that whole section. There's no room to be off that line. I've been in the car today a little bit, and you just get the entry to one of the corners wrong, and it really hampers the rest of that little section of track. And it is, if you go full pelt, you get the best time, but there are points where you do have to lift. If you do get it wrong, you've got to know how to get yourself out of that trouble across the top of the thing. It's very easy to keep pushing and then end up either into the sand there at McPhillamy, or even worse, going over Skyline at the wrong direction, the wrong pace, or into the wall just after the grate. There's lots of things that can go wrong over the top there. I just want to shout out, I just saw Race on Oz is still actually stayed out there after that little incident they had before. They're still tracking around down there in 22nd, so that's a good job for them being able to. That car must be a nightmare to drive right now after the hit it took, but they're doing a good job and they're keeping it going, which is a very good effort from them.
Yeah, they did get some damage repaired in the pits, which has fixed the rear suspension. Here's the number 43, meanwhile, getting chased down. And actually, that is a pit stop for the 952 BMW. It looks like OPR just got past them in the chase. And here is the run that they had. Dylan Shepherd at the wheel of the number 43. This car, this blue and orange BMW, suffering the ignominy of a very big penalty from race control because Dylan Shepherd didn't take a long enough break between stints in the car. They got a one-lap penalty from that. So all things considered, Scott, the fact that they are back on the lead lap and back into the top 10 really says something about how hard they've worked.
Oh, yeah, but they also needed some luck. They needed to get the safety cars behind them, and, they've achieved that, and then they've driven through the field. When you look at that sort of an achievement and something that they earned, I think about 2.5 hours, 2 and a bit hours into the race, they've done quite well to work their way back into the fight. But at the same time, it's you got to have a little bit of pace, but you've also just got to have that patience. So the drive from them today has been remarkable, yes, but it's been patient. It's been disciplined, I would say, is probably the most appropriate word, and that's what it's going to be all about. The 51 car as well, they had a lot of incidents. The crisscross car early on, they were leading the race. They took the opportunity to play a strategy card within that third hour of the race, and they got the opportunity to be running up front, and it lasted less than a straightaway. It didn't even make it to the first corner, and then it all went a little bit backwards from there, and that let them through a little bit of a hole. They've recovered, they've rebounded well, they've kept themselves alive, they've kept themselves in the race, and they've kept themselves quite critically in the hunt as well. Drivers up and down the field that you would have saying, hey, this car's out, their day is done. No, it's not been the case. Everyone's getting back out there and keeping themselves in contention.
The battles continue on track, though, and here's a Synergy car making their way past the one of the TriStar Racing Ferraris. Also saw a pass just up ahead in the chase. Lockhart Brownlee, we saw him running behind Glenn Riddell in the Pulsar Chuka McLaren, but that shows that there's still a lot of pace in that 268 machine. And Race Control have assigned a penalty to the 952 BMW for the contact that we caught earlier just up at the top of the broadcast. And here's a replay of how Lockhart Brownlee got it done on Glenn Riddell. Just a textbook overtaking move into the chase, and Riddell was sent wide and yielded the position quite early. We also saw on the live pictures there that Wayne Burke in the SSR number 89 has gotten past Ben Holiday, and he did it there at Griffin's Bend on the previous lap. So good stuff there from the number 89. They are continuing to demonstrate how they're worthy of a podium at this race, but still have to give a shout out to the Drop Bear Nkosi and Drop Bear Beyond Blue cars. The fact that they are working up at this end of the field shows that they've been focusing on the race. They've been focusing on keeping it clean. And the Crisscross Racing number 51, despite the issues that we saw it face earlier, definitely up there as well, Wilco.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. I'm watching the Drop Bear guys in particular. They're really driving to a time. They're doing 2027s, 2027s, 2027s. And before that, when they were in that pack, they were doing 2023s, which compared to the best times of the day, 2 minutes flat, are obviously done with a cooler track. But, you know, they're driving within themselves by the look of it, and they're driving to a specific time, which is what you've got to do in endurance racing. You watch your fuel burn, watch your tyre wear, and you just hit the same mark over and over again. And they're doing a great job with that, and they're just staying consistent in these packs and, yeah, doing exactly what they need to do right now. So...
absolutely. This 5-car battle, though, continuing, and we see that we have the Evolution Racing Team 261 rounding up on them as well. Remember, the 261 was the car, when driven by John Peasnick, had a huge spin coming up through Sulman Park, and that definitely got them a lap down, but thanks to safety cars, thanks to strategizing around those safety cars, got themselves back on the lead lap and up into 8th place now too. That car started on the front row, Braden, so good to see that they are plugging away, and they'll be coming up on Tyson Styles and the Whitey's Pies BMW very shortly.
We lost Braden again? I think we've lost Braden again.
I know.
Oh, he's back?
I'm back. I was just saying, it just goes to show how much endurance racing is such a mental thing. It'd be very easy once you've made a mistake, especially when it was on your own, you know, just losing as we see that Whitey's Pie car have a little bit of a rub on the outside of Forest Elbow. That's not going to do it any good. But yeah, it's so easy to make a mistake and then sort of throw the toys out of the cot and get down on yourself. But, you know, the 261 drivers have clearly picked themselves back up and tried to put that beside them as they're going to look down the inside at the chase. Ooh, that's very tight, but couldn't get the move done.
I was going to say, throw the toys out of the cot. Have you been watching my endurance racing, Braden?
I've been racing with you.
Yeah, you know exactly what that's about.
Well, here's a
Right,
replay of what
Tyson
happened.
Oz.
Just got into the marbles there, did Tyson Styles, and that killed his run down the straight, but he went deep into the chase.
Race, we've got a car stopped.
Oh.
Race on Oz is stuck on the track, not
Oh,
moving
no.
anywhere.
It's the same spot. That's the same spot as earlier, too. That's twice in the race. Yeah, they're called for tow. They need a tow.
Here we go, safety
Yeah.
car, boys.
Looks like the drive shaft's been disconnected there. They're not able to get that thing going. I think they might have lost the right rear wheel, potentially. How on earth did this happen? So Benjamin Smith at the wheel of the number 26, and a little bit of oversteer on the way out, and yeah, it looks like that's completely disconnected the rear right drive shaft there. That's a big shame. Yeah, you can see that the wheel is not turning. He's being asked to hold position. And we'll see that there might be a safety car. They have advised caution at race control. So we'll see if the face of this race changes once again, Scott. Safety
is,
car
yep.
has been called.
Yeah, it has, and it'd be interesting to see with where we are. You know, we're in the 2-stop-to-go fuel window now. So the critical thing for these guys is they can confirm that it's a 2-stop. They'll be taking fuel out of their final stop. So I expect a whole bunch of cars to pit here. Some of the cars that may not actually pit here is cars that are back around 10th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Why? Grab themselves some track position. They know they cannot hang with some of these guys on outright pace. But if you can get to the front and hold up some cars, what it does do is that field will spread through cars battling each other left and right. That will buy you a little bit more track position. It's going to buy you enough to outweigh the fuel. So there'll be some decision making. Cars at the front, no brainer, absolutely pit every day of the week. I'm looking around that 9th, 10th mark for some cars to opt not to come in.
Well, have a look at this. The rest of the top 6 coming in. The Whitey's Pies and ERT cars coming in as well. Interesting.
There's an overtake in the pit lane. I think Dan Yeaman's just grabbed a spot on the way into pit lane, going real deep on the brakes.
Oh, yeah. He just moved an inch ahead of his sister car, driven by Ben Holiday.
That's bravery. We'll see if he gets punished for that in the pit lane, because that is really running the lines. I mean, Yeaman's he is practiced. He's a very, very handy steerer of a race car. No, everyone's coming in. I'm not seeing a single car elect to go onto the alternate strategy so far, down to 14th. And there's another car who's made a spot up into the pit lane, which is Scott Stevens. The OSR safety car's sitting on Mountain Straight, just waiting for anyone to come through. I think the whole field's pitted. I don't think we've got a single car not take fuel here.
Yeah, looks like it. The TriStar Racing 222 and the ERT 262 are both still circulating out on track. We'll see if they come into the pits. The TriStar Racing car does, and the ERT car does as well, driven by Sean Linsell. So that is the entire field, all cars left running into the pits, and crucially, all cars still running are on the lead lap. So that is a complete reset to initial conditions for a lot of these drivers, and for quite a few teams there is driver changes. Dylan Burst has taken over the ABB Racing BMW. Jacob Kwiatkowski is back in the Team PGZ Ferrari. Wayne Burke, it seems, has stayed in the SSR BMW. Rainer Costello staying in the ERT 261. Greg Barber has taken over the Crisscross Racing 51. Bailey Sweeney has taken the reins from Dan Yeaman in the DBM 862. Jack Stiles back in the Drop Air Nkosi BMW. Matt Bailey in the Rusty's car. Jake Edwards in the Whitey's Pies car. So those are the top 7 cars, and majority of them changing drivers here under safety car.
I don't know if you know, Scott, what would be the ruling on overtaking into the pit lane? If you got it done before the line, it would be a penalty, but if it was actually in the pit lane, it's okay?
Well, I don't even know, because it's a controlled area. I mean, if it's in the pit lane, effectively the field should be frozen. Now, the way it would work in real life is that you would only have one lane through the pit lane. You would have to sit in there bumper to bumper to bumper, because there is a fast lane, there's a blend lane, and there's the bay lane. But because we're sim racing drivers and we have this funny thing called phasing, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Star Trek or Star Wars or anything sci-fi related, but one of the benefits of things that we can do is we can just drive cars through each other within iRacing. So I would say, based upon cars that are phasing through each other going through the stopping lane, that would be okay. I'm a little bit worried for Dan Yeaman, but on the other side of the coin, we also don't have the knowledge of these safety car pit stops and what race control has done up until now, because it will be one of those cases where they go by prior decision. Whatever the prior decision is, and their precedents for these sorts of incidents, they'll stick with it.
On board again with Benjamin Smith in the Race on Oz BMW. Just getting another angle of how that incident went down. Very unfortunate, Wilco. That's one of the things that you have to be careful of in that section of the track. The corner is pretty much flat in a GT3 with maybe a slight lift, if that, but you get your line wrong, you get your inputs ever so slightly wrong, the rear end lets go, and you have nothing but concrete to greet you.
Yeah, definitely. I did a few of those today in a bit of a practice run. That's what I was talking about, that one line you've got basically from the cutting through to Forest Elbow. Yeah, if you do get it wrong, especially pit exit, what? Sorry, I'm talking to myself. Yeah, look, if you do get it wrong, here we go, the replay. Look at that.
Oh, okay.
PGZ and ABB battling for that first position out of pits. That's very interesting. That can get very messy if you come out and you're not phasing anymore, as Scotty put it. There's some interesting things that can happen there. But we are getting ready. We're going for another lap around. The flashing lights from the Mercedes safety car doing a great job today. And PGZ is in the lead, Reese. Take us through that, because I thought ABB came out in front.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the deal is there. Can you clarify, Scott?
On that? Yeah. So I've got the specifics on that. That's come through from race control. The specifics are that the triple one car crossed the cone first, so that the marker for who gets control out of the pit lane is who got their nose past the cone first. Race control said it was the triple one car. They get the position.
So that's all due to how close they were to the end of pit lane, pretty much. It was a slightly better exit from pits for Dylan Burst, but Jakub Kwiatkowski is entitled to the lead, according to race control. So this is going to make for quite an interesting restart. The PGZ Ferrari back into the lead now after some more domination by the ABB BMW. Crucially, we've also got Wayne Burke up there as well. And ERT261 back into fourth place. So the cars in the top four all started up the pointy end of the grid here. This is going to be a fun restart. For context, the ABB BMW number 36 started on pole. ERT261 second, that blue and black McLaren behind them. The SSR 89 is in the position it started in third place, and the Team PGZ Ferrari came off the grid in sixth spot. So still plenty to go here, and there is the green cone. So yeah, technically the 111 entered the racetrack before the number 36 did. That is why they are in front now.
What we've learnt here today is get your overtakes done on pit entry, not pit exit.
Absolutely. It's all about who gets back onto the racetrack first, and according to race control, that is the green cone at the end of pit lane. Problems for the 707, meanwhile, who started fourth. This SSR Wave Runner car in the pits for quite some time, and they've managed to get their stop completed. Jordan Ross in that car, and that was a 1 minute 34 stop time. They took 2 minutes to get through the pit lane. Evidently some further issues for that car that they were not quite able to resolve in time. They have re-emerged onto the racetrack in 22nd place, and they are the second last car now in this field, Wilco. That is going to be a big blow for that team.
Yeah, it is. And I want to go back to that pit lane exit for again. I want to talk to Scotty about something for a second. This is what I love about endurance racing. There's so much strategy, so much things that can do to get you in positions that you want to be in. What's the odds PGZ did a short fill, basically looked in the mirror, saw ABB drop the jacks and went, we're dropping now and getting out in front of them, and maybe just that little bit less fuel in the tank.
100%. I mean, well, the thing is, they were 1 second quicker end to end in terms of the pit lane strategy. That's the critical factor. Is that they were just 1 second quicker through the pit lane. Now, that could be 1 second quicker through the stall, or it could be like Dan Yeaman's just done on the left-hand side up here, and he's made that overtake. I actually really want to check that with race control. This is something that I want to know the specifics of, this one right here. Yeah, it could be that they took a second less of fuel, but they were running right behind the 36 car for that entire stint. Maybe they had less fuel to actually add to the car. So that could be where they've grabbed the spot here. They may just let Dylan Burst go here again and just stick with him. But Dylan Burst has set cracking lap times here. I would expect the 111 Ferrari to want to hang on to this lead from here until the end of the race, because if they can hold them up, they'll control this field.
Here we go then.
Ready, Reese. We're getting ready, mate.
Yep, here we go. Jakub Kwiatkowski goes at the apex of Murray's Corner and leads them away to start the next lap with just under 2.5 hours to go. Some weaving in the background. It looks like the Drop Bear BMW got off to a bit of a slow start there. And Kwiatkowski not getting the best of exits. That balked Dylan Burst a little bit. That means there's going to be a change for second, potentially. Wayne Burke actually lifts off there and yields the position back. So the top three cars getting into each other a bit. And there goes Reina Costello into third place now in the ERT 261. Fantastic stuff there. Very opportunistic move indeed. So now ERT is making a run for the lead of this race, and we can see that Kwiatkowski back in the car after some time out, not having the best of runs there. He's under pressure. So, okay. The OPR car, we don't go side by side through here, boys. Goodness me. The Pulsachuca Toyota McLaren making a move on them. Some big problems there for the OPR number 43. They're now outside the top 10. David Lord has jumped into the car there, and Scott Stevens just behind him. Once again, Scott Stevens and David Lord used to be teammates at Fusion Sim Racing, and David Lord has quite a bit of real-life racing experience under his belt. He drove the Tunehouse Mazda MX-5 in World Time Attack, so got plenty of experience pushing to the limit. Here is the Conrod Straight Braden and potential for a move for the lead at the chase.
Yeah, safety cars are a great opportunity to make up positions quickly, but comes with an inherent amount of risk as well. As we see, excuse me, Dylan Burst right up on the back and then sends it down the inside. Ooh, looks like a little bit of maybe phantom contact there between the two of them, and it has given a run to the Evolution Racing team McLaren as well. They're going to have to go around the outside.
Oh, no. Oh, they thought they could turn in, but they weren't quite ahead of the PGZ Ferrari, and so they have lost a position again to the 89 BMW. As have a look at this. This is looking a little interesting coming into the first corner. Matt Bailey leading up this big pack. Jack Stiles, Jake Edwards, Greg Barber, Lockhart Brownlee, and the hotly pursuing John Merritt, who has taken over the Pulsachuca Toyota McLaren.
Have a look further in the pack, about 20th, at Jordan Ross-driven SSR car, who's stuck in the pits for a bunch of services and get some repair done. There was also Matt Bowler way back down in the pack. They just come off Hell Corner, 2x2, way back down the order in there. There's two Frog Leap Juice cars that are backing in this action. Someone wide at Griffin's Bend as well has just lost 3 spots, the back car there. Oh, it's all kicking off. It's not just at the front. The Mercedes wiggled. The Mercedes was all over the place. How did he hang on to that?
Goodness me, that is fantastic car control there from Hayden Harrison in the 9.5 Sim Sport Mercedes. A lot of confusion on the way out of turn 2 there. And that's one place that you don't want to have people coming together. It's one of many places around the circuit where there is absolutely no space, no margin for error. But the battle continues here. Jordan Ross pursuing Rob Crisdale and Brant Tucker there. And the TriStar Racing cars are very close together in position now as a result. Here is what happened here for Hayden Harrison right in the midst of all of this. Pass on the way into Griffin's Bend. Cars on the outside have to yield because of the camber in the road. And then, oh, goodness me, that was a big correction there for Harrison. On the way into the cutting, no less, Wilco. That is a tough spot.
It is definitely a tough spot. Look, too many cars go in the one spot. I've seen that end poorly in officials multiple times. Look at these guys. They're battling. It's too...
Oh, no! Stevens off! Scott Stevens sent off at the chase. The rear end of that car is destroyed. That is massive. And that was contact with another car there. Looked to me like a move was made by Brad Ratu and the 9.5 BMW there. Stevens was sent right into the path of Tyson Williams in the TriStar Racing 222. And
get this back.
Yeah, the 952 BMW has already suffered a penalty from race control for the incident that we caught earlier. They might get another one for this.
Got a lot of spots for the car behind there to go, and you just saw the car, I think it was the no, that's the Scott Stevens car. Sorry, the car that just ventured out onto the grass and tried to rejoin, but just had no chance. And that is a sad-looking BMW grabbing its way back to pit lane. And I'm not sure if they still have their fast repair, but if they don't, that's going to be a long time in the pits.
Definitely is. They do not have the fast repair. We've just had it confirmed by Jay behind the scenes. So it's all gone wrong there for ANZ number 7 and through no fault of his own. So that we'll see if they can make it back out. We check back in with the battle for what is now second. Typical for the ABB Racing crew, Dylan Burse has streaked away at the front of the field. He leads by 1.9 seconds now, and it's all down to whether Jacob Kwiatkowski can stymie the big run of this ERT McLaren, who's starting to close in on Wayne Burke in the SSR 89 machine, Braden. We've already seen some massive moves from that McLaren under brakes, but evidently not close enough to get it done that time.
Yeah, and they must be feeling a little bit frustrated at the moment. They took those risks we were talking about on the first lap after the safety car, but it ended up not paying off and found themselves at the back of that little group again as we rolled on board again with the Pulse Echuca Toyota coming into the final corner, trying to dig into that little bit of camber, get a nice run. And if I know the Pulse Echuca boys well enough, they would be thinking about saving fuel at this point of the race, trying to stay on the back of this BMW and seeing if they can make these next few stops a little bit shorter.
Have a look at the exit that he gets from Hell Corner, though. Lockhart Brownlee is going to have to look over his shoulder here and goes defensive on the way into Griffin's Bend. Another BMW up ahead, Greg Barber in the crisscross car, but it seems that Merritt has enough straight line speed here that Brownlee's just like, yeah, all right, mate, you can have this. They're obviously thinking about their strategy going forward in the Taipan 268. That's going to be something to keep an eye on in the next 2 and a bit hours, as there's another potential change of position between two BMWs. Neil Woodburn in the WMB car and Ray Oliver in the Frog Leap Juice Racing Blue machine. And that was actually a move around the outside by Ray Oliver in Griffin's Bend, which, Scott, you almost never see.
Yeah, so that says to me that they're a little bit out of sync. Maybe they didn't have as many repairs to take. And that's the battle that we were watching Jordan Ross sort of cutting himself through in the SSR car from the rear of the pack after repairing their damage. So they were clearly the cork in the bottle there, and Ray will get this one done. And yeah, that's it on camera. Man, he's parked it in the marbles. He's hung it around the outside, and well, he's taken all of the marbles, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I've raced plenty with Ray Oliver. I know how good he is, and that was some very good car placement. Here comes the 89, right on the back of the PGZ Ferrari. Ferrari is good on fuel mileage, so that partially explains why they were able to get a slightly quicker pit stop and save fuel as well behind the ABB 36 in the lead at the moment. But now that we're back under racing conditions, Kwiatkowski is having to keep an eye out for 2 cars attempting to pass him. Moving further back as well, Bailey Sweeney in the DBM Beyond Blue car, starting to fall under pressure here from the Rust-eze Racing crew. Matt Bailey at the wheel of that car. And the Rust-eze Racing cars, or the Rust-eze Racing car, oh, that's a problem for the 957 Mercedes as we switch back here to Reina Costello. Dives down the inside of Griffin's and up into 3rd place. Puts the SSR BMW back behind him here and can start chasing that Ferrari. I'll go back to you briefly, Scotty. Remember this morning when we were broadcasting, the Rust-eze Racing car, they ended up disconnecting from the server. Now they're back in the top 6s. That's what happened to the 957.
Yeah, and it's, again, another story of a car keeping themselves in it. The benefit of a disconnection compared to any of the incidents that we've seen is it's not going to take away your spare car. It's just a disconnect to everyone that's watching along at home. There's a timer that comes up. The drivers will tow back to their way to the pit lane, or air quotes tow back to the pit lane. Just a timer that comes up based upon measured distance from the pit lane. That'll get these cars into the pit lane. They can then restart their race once they get back to the pit lane. Do a driver swap, get a new driver into the car if they need to, whatever they need to do. That'll all be done there. But there'll be no damage done to the cars in the bulk variety of cases unless they were already going to make contact with a wall. So yeah, they've kept themselves alive. A little bit lucky with that one. Oh, look, and again, it's happened at the earlier stages of a race. If something like that was to happen right now... Oh, here we go.
Speak of the devil, and he shall appear. Hayden Harrison, out of the dipper, has had a very large issue, and he is not able to get that thing turned around in a single go. Here's what happened to him. Just out of the dipper, the rear end was lost. What do you make of that one, Braden?
Yeah, it could be just carrying a little bit too much speed in, or maybe Yeah, not too sure. A little bit too much speed and overcorrected. It's so easy to do through that section of the track as we have a look at the Pulse racing car, having another look down the inside. Yeah, it's just not a lot of room for error up the top there, and concrete walls surrounding you doesn't make it easy to recover from. You almost have to do an Austin Powers type maneuver to get yourself back out on track.
Now, Braden, would that have anything to do with him wrecking his tyres at the bottom of the hill when he went off at the same car that went off at Murray's only half a lap beforehand, or mentally? We were talking mental game before. Would that be something that maybe he didn't quite get it back down and he wasn't focusing enough because he's thinking about what he'd done half a lap beforehand?
Yeah, absolutely. It could be a bit from column A and a bit from column B there. You know, once you overheat those tyres, it's a compounding factor. So you overheat the tyres, you get them dirty, then you go into the next few turns and you're a little bit loose in the rear and you overheat them even more, and it just keeps going and going and going. So you need to really focus in after you've had a little spin and, you know, focus on getting those temps back down to a good operating temperature and then work away from there. So could have been a little bit of that and then combine that with maybe trying to make up the time he lost. And
Was Jordan Duffett at the wheel just now?
Yes, he's just, he was. No,
that's
actually,
the Rusty's car. Because
he wasn't at the wheel.
Thank God for that, because he was the same driver that had a disconnect in the early race. We just mentioned the 95 car. He's just dropped from the server. The exact same reason. Exactly the same reason. So I'm wondering whether or not they tried to cycle him through the car early, made sure he hit all of his minimum numbers, and then went, right, we've now got a two-driver car, other way around.
Move for second place, meanwhile. There is Rainer Costello making the move on Jacob Kwiatkowski. Brilliant stuff. And Kwiatkowski is now in trouble here from the 89, who goes up the inside at Murray's. In the marbles goes the Ferrari and has to yield to the BMW. Great fighting here in the battle for second place. But now, crucially, Rainer Costello has been unleashed. He has no one in front of him up until the ABB racing car. They're not even in the same frame. I can tell you that 4.4 seconds is the gap for the race lead. Now, it's going to be down to Rainer Costello to see what he can do with a clear track ahead of him. Scotty?
Yeah, and we saw some aggression from Rainer Costello. That move at Skyline, that is going to live on for as long as I'm a commentator. Every single time I'm going to see him in the car, for the rest of his racing days, I'm going to think back on that move. And I'll tell you what, John Merritt will be thinking back about that move and going, well, I wonder if I could do that. I'm keeping up to date with the 957 car as well, the one that we've seen have a lot of issues with Hayden Harrison behind the wheel. It looks like, I'm wondering whether or not there's a rear tyre imbalance, whether or not there's some camber or some toe damage or something at the rear end of that car. They're not just struggling in the two times we've seen them. Hayden is having a lot of problems getting that car to pull up and stay connected on at the rear bumper.
You briefly touched on John Merritt. Well, here he is behind a two-car battle in the BMWs and a little side tap there, and it almost turned into 3 wide on the exit of Griffin's Bend. This was probably very stressful for John Merritt, who is still struggling to make his way past that crisscross racing BMW. Has blocked him on a couple of occasions, and he's gotten on the headlight flash to voice his displeasure. Now they're coming up on the 692 drop bear in Kosi car. So let's see how this one turns out. Good point that you make there about Harrison and the 9.5 car. That car does not look fun to drive at the moment.
No, he's a real handful. I'm wondering whether or not he's still struggling to get those tyres into the correct working temperature. Yeah, look, it's Adam Hughes behind the wheel of the crisscross car at the moment. I know he's a very, very quick driver in Porsche Cup. Porsche Cup is his big preferred forte, and generally when you see these guys in a GT3 car, they generally prefer the Porsche over any other car, but they're going to be the ones to get the aggressor down at Murray's corner. This will set it up for John Merritt, who's going to look for the switch back to the inside now. He'll try and get past the next car in the queue. Can Merritt finally seal the deal as he gets down the inside, the Pulse racing car, Pulse tuning racing car, the Echuca Toyota? Well, he might have just sold a Toyota the way he drove that one.
Yeah, and no doubt he's going to stick to the right-hand side on the way into Griffin's Bend, because if you're going to be racing side-by-side with someone, the right side is where you want to be because of that camber in the road. You see how it affects him here, and the drop bear car has to yield, and even then almost give up a position. They're going to give up every position, as that is the worst place for an incident like that to happen on the exit of the cutting. The drop bear in Kosi BMW with Jack Styles at the wheel. He only just got back into the car after a sleep. Jack is in the UK, and this is the worst thing possible to happen to him. Unfortunately, yeah, Lockhart Brownlee trying to sneak up the inside there. There just wasn't space on the inside. The door started to be shut there by Jack Styles. So that just sent them all a cropper there, and it created an accordion effect with Brad Ratu in the 952, David Lord in the OPR car, and the TriStar racing car of Tyson Williams had to get on the brakes as well.
Oh, this is going to take some sorting out, Braden. Go ahead.
It's just so difficult when you're out there on the outside of turn 2, even if it's, you know, start of the race and there's no marbles out there, but, you know, you combine that with the marbles, and you just have to be so careful, and everyone sees that you're stuck out there and they know it's such a weakness, and it's so tempting to get up the inside, and all of a sudden you go from losing 1 position to losing 2 or 3 or 4. But that's definitely the worst result that they could have hoped for, and it's going to be hard work just to get that car back to pit lane.
Okay, so them stopping on the side of the road there was a car coming. They actually didn't want to go down the S's with somebody directly in behind them, because that would have just caused another car to get caught up in it. This is the TriStar's view. Oh, Reese, this was horrendous.
Yeah,
oh, that's phenomenal driving.
Yeah, really heads-up driving from Tyson Williams there, straight on the brakes and finding a clear spot. Unfortunately, the same couldn't be said for Rob Crisdale in the Frog League Juice Racing black car. He ended up collecting, oh dear, that's the 268 there who was involved in that incident. Going straight on at the chase. They've got heavy damage as well. Lockhart Brownlee really struggling to get that thing back to the pits. And the number 44 getting a few free positions here as a result. Dave Holly staying back out on the track. Drop Aaron Kosi still out there and struggling down Conrod straight up the hill. And if you're a car going over Conrod, you do not want to be there on the crest, because drivers behind can't see you coming. And there we go. Well,
that's 24th place. They're multiple laps down. That is the other crisscross racing car, the 22 car. But the leaders are now on Conrod. So I'm actually quite worried. This next 15, 20 seconds is going to be... Oh, it's going to be absolutely unreal. All you can do is close your eyes and hope.
Yeah, all you can do indeed. This is the view from on board the ABB racing machine on your right-hand side. They're just coming up to the chase here. It looks like Jack Styles will be able to bring that car into the lane by the time they get up to him. So, Wilco, looks like a big crisis has been averted for the leaders for the time being at least. And I tell you what, Dylan Burse has turned up the wick again. Despite Rainer Costello getting past those other 2 BMWs, he's not been able to put anything into this lead gap. It's extended. It's at 5.3 seconds.
Yeah, we saw last night for the top 10 shootout, even the qualifying leading up to it. I got to watch that firsthand and tell you guys all about it. But Dylan Burse was on another level at that stage. Obviously, the Evolution car was up there as well, but Dylan was just so much quicker. They were 6/10 generally quicker than the rest of the field, and he's showing why. And that the stint that he did this morning as well opened up a massive gap on the field. It was always going to be get him back in at the end of the race and see what he can do. Just have the car near the front, and he's showing just how important having a good car, good fast car, and a good driver combo at the end of the race is for an endurance race like this. 2 hours to go, no mistakes. 5-second lead could balloon out if there's no more safety cars. We're down to 21 cars still going around at the moment, which is quite a good effort. I think 21 or 22 at the moment, but they're dropping like flies as they do some silly moves. Don't you agree, Reese?
Yeah, there have been a few moves that you wouldn't expect from a 12-hour endurance race around here. I mean, Mount Panorama is going to breed drama regardless of what category and what type of race is happening here. But yeah, I think a couple of the drivers just need to rein it in a little bit and realize we've still got 2 hours to go in this race, and anything can happen. You might as well yield if there's a move being put on you, or if you don't have much of a chance of getting by someone, you stay behind, because anything can change over a long time here. Big news for car 65. That's the Whitey's Pies powered by Ryco entry. breach of drive time rules, Scott. That is a big problem for Jake Edwards here. Unfortunately, it seems there's... Can you explain that for me there?
Yeah, so that's either going to be they've exceeded their 75 laps maximum concurrent driving time, or alternatively, they haven't left minimum of 25 laps out of the car before they've slapped a driver back in. So we saw that a little bit earlier on in the day. I'm interested to see. I can't see any notes currently specifically about that one. Have you guys got the update?
I'm just having a look at the laps, and it looks like Jared Farrell got into the car on lap 181 and took over from Tyson Styles, and then he jumped out of the car on lap 198, and Tyson Styles got back in. So if my calculations are correct, that's only about 18 laps, which is just, what, 7 short of the minimum time out of the car for Tyson.
That's taken a while to be applied.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm the same. I'd expect that one. Look, I'm not going to say that Race Control don't have a huge job to play at the moment. They've look at the chaos that we've just seen in the last couple of laps. They've got that to investigate. They had something to investigate recently with a couple of cars down at the chase. There was a penalty, I believe, just looked at and potentially issued for that one. Actually, I don't know if that one's actually been penalised yet, but that was in their queue to be looked at. So I would say Race Control have actually got a fair bit to sort of chunk through at the moment. They've had a fairly loaded day, and they've got to cycle their guys through Race Control at the same time. If you've got 3 guys in Race Control, I don't think at any one time you'd have any less than 2 in that box, which means only one of them can be off for a loo break, can be off for a luncheon break, can be off to grab a cup of coffee and reset themselves. So they've got a busy day.
That they have. Definitely would rather be here in the comms box than in the Race Control booth at a big event like this. Here comes down Conrod Straight. Brad Ratu in the 952, chasing down Greg Barber for 8th place on the road at the moment. Still good to see that those cars are out there and fighting. We've got David Lord just behind them as well, getting pressured by Tyson Williams, who once again had that really good incident avoidance for the incident at Griffin's Bend a couple of laps ago. So two-car battles here, and out behind them is the drop-bearing Cosi BMW, who has returned to the circuit. As you would have seen on the graphics earlier, they have used their fast repair to get back out on track nice and quickly. Let's see then what can be done here, as a move was made just behind Tyson Williams, now ahead of David Lord there, as we just saw. We've also got another black flag that's come in for car 98, also for a breach of drive time rules. That's the Frog League Juice Racing black car. Dean Hunt has jumped into that car after Rob Crisdale was involved in the incident out of Griffin's. Looks like Crisdale only had, I'd say that's 20 laps out of the car as Hunt took over from him briefly.
Having a look at the pit stop times from the Taipan Esports car and the Drop Bear and Cosi car that needed to take those fast repairs, and 31.4 seconds in the box for Taipan. So you'd assume that they've taken a bunch of fuel on board and now have a full car and will be able to run a little bit longer than these other cars that are in front of them. But the Drop Bear and Cosi car, just 4.4 seconds.
Oh no,
Ooh.
David Lord into the barrier in the S's, and that car is destroyed on the front right. Everyone's taking nice avoiding action there, but Lordy is saying, oh Lordy, a big mistake in a crucial part of the circuit. That's something that we've seen so many cars do here, Wilco. Just making an error, coming down the hill, and then sliding straight into the tyre barriers. That is yet another car that we see limping down Conrod Straight.
Yeah, downhill braking, turning as well. If you don't get it straight, you've got to turn and brake, and the car just doesn't like that. And there is no room for error. You can see probably a little bit too far over the big... No, it's just straight across there. Straight into that wall. We've seen it in real life. We've seen it in here. And then just that little extra hit from the dipper as well does not help at all. Great avoidance from the cars behind, and another car that's going to be battled to get down Conrod Straight yet again. I just want to shout out, just because I did, here we go, this is the shortcut you take, the safe way to do it. It's not the jump. And if there's no one around, it is probably the safest way to do it, to be honest. But the Rusty's car, last night I was watching the top 15 shootout. They were 15th. They put in a blinder of a lap, got up to, I think it was about 10th or so in the end, or maybe even higher. They're running 6th at the moment. So this is a team that, went through qualifying and all that kind of stuff, and they're just consistently out there doing a good job. And they're right behind the drop bear, the DBM Beyond Blue car of Bale Sweeney, and really keeping the rhythm and doing a good job of hanging around that place and putting the pressure on him for a fifth. And I'm not talking about anyone anymore. I'm doing too many curses. Reese, take over, mate.
Yeah, all right, gladly. The number 95, Braden, doing quite an incident that we've seen plenty of times. A little bit wide out of McPhillamy Park and getting into the grass. Early on in the race, we saw quite a few drivers have massive crashes as a result of that, but crucially, Matt Bailey has taken control of that.
He's done well to keep that one, well, I say on the grey stuff, but to get it back onto the grey stuff with no issues. I think he probably almost did himself a bit more of a favour. He got all 4 wheels out on the grass, so the same level of lack of traction across all 4 wheels, as opposed to having a couple on and then trying to fight your way back over that curb, and that's what really makes the car snap back on you as he comes up on the back of, it looks like one of the Drop Bear cars. It is Drop Bear Motorsport Beyond Blue. Is currently sitting in 5th, doing a really great job at the moment. I believe that's Bailey Sweeney in the car as well. So could have been a big moment, but manages to keep it together.
Only just. We check back in with the ABB Racing car, which along with the 95 is one of 8 cars that have a fast repair in the back pocket. Joining them is the 261 ERT car, the 89 Synergy Sim Racing car, the Team PGZ Ferrari, the 862 DBM Beyond Blue car with Bailey Sweeney at the wheel. And we have also got the number 64 Pulsar Chuka Toyota and the ERT 262 McLaren running down in 15th place at the moment. So I have to say, Scott, it's really awesome to see that all of those cars still have a fast repair in hand. If anything goes wrong for them here in the final couple hours, they can get back out there quickly, and that is the main game, the main goal here when you're racing in an endurance race with fast repairs.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely so, but I was literally just sitting here just going, are we starting to see the fatigue creep in? Are we starting to see mistakes come to head? Because we've just seen a couple of little unforced errors, cars swapping ends on marbles, and just the one coming down a crest of the hill across Skyline, he was 20 centimeters out of position. If his left tires are 20 centimeters further right there, he gets away with it. So I think fatigue is starting to creep in for a lot of these guys. They've been going, if you're Reese Gardner, they've been going since 6 a.m. this morning. But if you're the rest of these field, they've been going since 8:30ish this morning, plus waking up early, plus doing some warm-up and practice laps. So they've been going since, 7 a.m.? And then you've got your Kiwis over there that have been going from a lot more of a respectable time frame. So fatigue, I think, is the factor that's starting to come to these guys, which makes me a little bit worried about Dylan Burst because he's continuing to just punch. Is he going to be maybe pushing a fraction too hard? But then again, if he pegs it back and he pulls it back just a little bit, sometimes that causes the mistakes as well.
Yeah, loads of things to consider in an endurance race. The mental and the physical toll that it takes on you. Even when you're driving on the sim, you still work incredibly hard. And I can't imagine what drivers go through in a real life endurance race, having those forces acting on them. Here comes TriStar, meanwhile, trying a move on Crisscross. Greg Barber still keeping Tyson Williams behind him here, but Tyson is looking more and more aggressive as time goes on. Let's see how the Ferrari does across the top, Braden. Will Tyson be able to get a good exit out of Forest Elbow and get this done? Because it's single file from here.
Yeah, it's so important to get that run out, and sometimes it takes a few laps, and depending on what the car is doing in front of you, can really dictate how you take that corner. But the lines are definitely getting a little bit more limited as those marbles continue to build up. It's a little bit more difficult to take that wide entry and try and dip back down underneath to give yourself the run down Conrad straight as they file single file. We're about to find out if he's going to be able to get close enough. It's going to be a tall order. Oh, did he brush the wall there on the outside? Maybe trying to get nice and wide, but we know that BMW's got decent enough straight line speed, but you do get a nice big toe, so you might have a look. It doesn't look like he's going to be close enough this lap around. Yeah, so be interesting to see if we can have a look at that Ferrari and if it did do any damage, because it looks like, yeah, we are going to have a look now. Coming down into Forest Elbow. Ooh, the rear does get a little bit loose and grazes both the front and back right-hand quarter panels on the outside concrete wall. So hopefully that doesn't do too much. You can see it actually there on the front right. A little bit of damage.
Yeah, ever so slight, and I think that damage has been carried for some time. Yeah, just added to it by the incident coming into the elbow. And being there in real life, it's one of those places you think, how is this physically possible? And one of the big commentary cliches of a Bathurst event is that TV pictures don't do this place justice. Well, I can tell you, it's 100% true. I went down to Forest Elbow in the real world. I even walked the track when I was there last, and it is a literal cliff of tarmac. You go over that rise, as we're about to see Tyson Williams do again here. Okay, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to see that. Unfortunately, it was so close to the wall that it actually broke the camera. So, yeah, going over that rise, it's very easy for the rear end to let go, Scott. And it's any wonder that we don't see more incidents like that.
Yeah, we'll get the ability to have a look at it this time. This is the replay yet again to see if we did clear out the barrier. Oh,
yeah,
he's okay with that one. That's such a light contact, and the wheels were nearly square on with the wall. He'd get away with that quite fine. It's direct on. When the wheels are turned, that's where the contacts will hit it. But yeah, I want to go here in the next year. I've actually just had it confirmed today that I'll actually be moving a little bit closer to Bathurst. My wife's just accepted a new job out at Griffith, so I will be. Excuse me, a lot closer to the track. But yeah, I've always wanted to go, man. It's they talk about the hills, and I was quite quite lucky to race growing up on motocross, and some of the steep inclines that you see there, and everyone just turns and says, "Look, just go to Bathurst. You've never seen anything. Go to Bathurst. You've just got to. Words cannot explain it. I mean, how good was the lap when we had some the American commentators out here in a V8 supercar a couple years ago? They just went, "You guys are mental. You guys are just absolutely nuts. Why would you do this?"
Yeah, I believe it was Darrell Waltrip who called this track a geological oddity. Really high praise coming from someone like Darrell Waltrip. We did see the TriStar 222 of Tyson Williams make a move on Greg Barber in the crisscross BMW there, and we see the 95 Rusty's car coming up now on Bailey Sweeney in the DBM Beyond Blue Ferrari. This is the battle for 5th place. And both of these cars were definitely down in the doldrums at some point, more so the number 95. But once again, it's all about plugging away, keeping your pace consistent, making sure that you stay out of trouble as much as possible, and you will be there at the end, or at least with 2 hours to go. As goodness me, I don't know if you saw that, but Matt Bailey had a massive wiggle coming down through the S's, Braden.
Yeah, I didn't quite catch that one, but it's just so easy to do. We've seen 3 or 4 cars do that just in this part of the broadcast alone, and I'm sure it's been happening all throughout the 10 plus hours we've been running so far. As we're going to have a look at it here, that Rusty's car having, that
wibble
bump
wobble
there, unsettling the rear end. It's very easy to do. You need to take that curb to be quick and to get your braking nice and straight to set yourself up for the dipper. But you know, you take the wrong part of it and you bounce, or you take too much of it and you cop the grass, and as we saw earlier, go straight off into the concrete. So it's just such an important braking area to keep the car balanced, as a lot can go wrong.
Yeah, lost a little bit of time recovering from that one, did Matt Bailey, but Bailey Sweeney still remains in sight here as they enter Hell Corner once again for the 260-somethingth time. Officially, it's lap 270 in sim, but that also counts the formation laps that we saw at the start of the event. So in terms of actual racing laps, I believe we're on lap 266 or 267 now, as the number 44 now makes their way out of pit lane. The Shakedown sim racing car is the last car on the lead lap, with Jim Stoddart now taking over the wheel of that machine, and that was a pretty consistent stop for them, 40.6 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, you know, good stint from them. Good stint from everyone. Look, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, I'll have to bow out, bid you guys adieu here to the end of the race. Look, it's been a phenomenal race. How good was the opening couple of hours? How far away are we from this next safety car? It's going to come down. I think you're going to get about a one fuel stint sprint, I think, approximately in that area. You're going to get somebody that's going to throw a wild card strategy at you guys. And I absolutely envy you guys that you can go through to the end. But I've got some prior commentary duties. You guys have a blast. Thank you very much, everyone. This has been an absolute blast. And there's nearly enough for a podcast in here, Wilco.
Maybe. We'll see. Got to get some time. We are seeing some interesting pit stops coming in now as well. So the 1 hour and 52-minute mark to go, and one of the Frog Leap boys have just come in again. This is one more stop to go
Safety
after
car!
Safety car? We
Yeah,
have a
random
safety car.
Yeah.
All right, looks like a random safety car there. Well, thanks very much, Scott Rankin, for joining us once again here. We will leave you to take care of what you need to take care of, and best of luck for the rest of the day. Enjoy the finish of the races. I'm sure we will as well. Safety car is out on track now, or almost out on track. They're waiting to bring up the leader, who's just come out of the cutting. So it seems to me that this is another one of our random safety cars here. We had 3 so far, and this is the 4th one. And remember, the number of random safety cars is generated before the start of the race, and it's between 0 and 4. So looks like 4 random safety cars. Any safety cars that happen from this point on will have to occur naturally. Braden?
Yeah, and if you're Reina Costello, you're pretty happy with the timing of this one. It's going to reset the field and give you an opportunity to get back onto the back of Dylan Burse and really fight it out for this last, what do we got, an hour and 50 minutes. So if you're Dylan Burse, you're probably not as happy with it, cruising along out the front by yourself, but it's going to give us, again, an opportunity to see that field back together. And we're getting to the part of the race where it is probably getting close to time to take a few risks, and when there's a safety car, it's a perfect time to try and make up some spots.
Well, they still continue at racing speed. Not allowed to pass, obviously, under safety car conditions, but Bailey Sweeney will, he's going a little bit slower down Conrod Straight than Matt Bailey would like. I think they want to lose as little time as possible, because that could be worth a position there if they get held up a little bit on the way into the pits. But we see that the leaders are in. Dylan Burse, Reina Costello, Wayne Burke, and Jakub Kwiatkowski have all made their way into the lane, and there's a lot of shuffling that has to go on there. Lead car into the pits. Dylan Burse will hand the reins over to Josh Anderson, it seems. Reina Costello, meanwhile, gives the control of the 261 to Reese Gusul. Let's see if Jakub Kwiatkowski hands the 111 over to anyone. Looks like he's staying in the car. So yeah, we see the top 9 cars in the pits at the moment. We've also seen a couple of pitters from back in the field. So let's think about this one then, Braden. There's a minimum time elapsed that has to be in the pits, and it looks like it's worked out in the favor of Evolution Racing Team 261 in terms of the battle with the cars behind them. They still come out behind the ABB Racing BMW, but driver change in both cars, Braden. That is going to result in maybe a little bit of wobbliness when they get to the restart.
Yeah, it will. And got new drivers. You're not, I guess, raced in and coming in fresh, and you have to do a safety car restart, and you're going to have a bunch of cars around you. You definitely much rather get in the car out in the clear and give yourself a couple of laps to get back up to speed. But you're going to have to jump in fresh, and the pressure's going to be on straight away.
Just quickly, I was looking when that got called. John Merritt was basically just before pit lane, dived in straight away, came in 11th position. Because of the timing of that safety car and that getting on the gas and getting into the pit stop straight away, he's jumped up to 7th because of the way it all has rolled out. So well done for Pulse Chuka Toyota. They've done a great job there with the safety car, and off we go.
Well, go on.
I was just going to say, yeah, I don't think even if they wanted to do a driver swap, they would have been able to, because I don't think either Dennis or Glenn would have been out of the car for long enough, or maybe Dennis might have actually been just doing some calculations, but definitely not Glenn. So easy decision for the Pulse boys to keep John in the car, and he's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, they re-emerge in 7th place. And they will be right on the back of that battle between Rusty's and DBM. Meanwhile, the second DRT car, the number 262, Flock, Bowler, and Linsell, they make their way into the lane. They will fall out of the top 10. Matthew Bowler taking back control of that McLaren. The sister car, meanwhile, you see on screen at the moment, right behind the ABB racing car. And Josh Anderson, when we saw him take over the car in the first 3 hours broadcast, had a couple of tiny issues on his way through his stint, some minor wobbles. So there's potential here for Reese Gasol to be counting on that. And Reese Gasol and John Peasnick in that 261 car have plenty of experience in the McLaren GT3. It's been their main ride for pretty much the entire time they've been driving GT3 cars on the iRacing service, with an occasional dip into Mercedes territory. So, Wilco, I think we're going to be seeing some really good racing here between the leaders when we get on this restart.
Yeah, sorry, I'm fascinated by this decision. Reese Gasol had a really good run last night. He was very quick in qualifying, and Jacob we saw, and we had a chat to him after the shootout, and he was in a lot of pace. So Josh Anderson's got a lot of pressure now. They've put him in the right spot. He's got the car underneath him, but I would be feeling a little bit better if it was Brees that was in there heading towards this final couple of laps. But couple of laps, we've got an hour and a bit to go. But 12-hour race, it's going to be very interesting. He's going to have his hand cut out for him. I think the upside is he's got that purple car in between second and third, so that might keep one car off his tail. But what a fascinating restart we're going to have, and we've seen issues every time. Last couple of times anyway with the restart. So what's going to happen? 3-4 wide into Hell Corner on turn 1, you reckon, Braden?
I hope not. As a viewer, I definitely
Likewise.
hope so. But as a viewer, I'm sure we do want to see some of that. But I know earlier we saw 3 wide into turn 1 didn't end up too well. You can see a bit of a gap being left as we get some wave rounds now.
Here we go.
As well. The grid sorting themselves out. Cars sticking to the left to allow for that to happen. You can see Shakedown Sim Racing getting a lap back. I think they're more than a... Oh, that does actually get them back on the lead lap. So they'll be definitely happy with that one. Got a few others. That's the...
Same
65,
for the Whitey's Pies, yeah.
So they'll be very happy with the timing of this safety car. And unfortunately for the Frog Leap Juice Racing Black team, there are a few more laps behind, so they'll need quite a few more safety cars to come around to get them back onto the lead lap. But we do have, it looks like 20 cars still on the lead lap now, so plenty to fight for as we see the
262 back in the pits, still doing optional repairs, apparently. They had 9 minutes of repairs from that earlier incident that Matthew Bowler was involved in. Sean Linsell, sorry, was involved in. Linsell was at the wheel of the car at the time. So they're still getting those repairs done. Safety car is the best time to do it. So they'll be able to hopefully get back onto the back of the pack there as Bowler gets as many repairs done as he can and emerges out of the pit box. It's been a very difficult last hour or so since we went live for quite a few teams. The retirements list has been added to. The OPR car with David Lord at the wheel, who managed to clobber the tyre bundles in the S's. Unfortunately, it looks like that car is out. Same can be said for the ANZ Motorsports number 7, Scott Stevens, involved in that incident at the chase that put the rear end of the car into the wall. They're out as well. And the Race on Oz machine that ended up bringing out the last naturally occurring safety car, also out, as well as the Crisscross Racing number 22. So on board here with Dan Stevens. He's driving the safety car here. Of course, Mr. Stevens is a good friend of us here at SimSpeed TV. He's definitely had plenty of appearances on the Zoom wall as well as a driver, as a race driver. But now he's doing increasing duties with OSR, helping them out with the conducting of their events. So good to see that another guy has been added to the crew, and we can see that the field is getting nicely compressed here. We should expect the safety car to come in at the end of the next lap, I believe, as the waiver rounds have been completed, Wilco.
Yeah, I'm just watching you back in the field. Shakedown's doing its best to try and get onto the back of this field before the restart, and he's going to have a little bit of time, but this is one of the most scariest things. You're trying to go as fast as you can. You try not to bin it on a safety lap, and but you really want to get back onto the end because you get the best advantage, obviously. Whitey's Pies was the other one that's behind him. You can just behind this car as well, doing the same thing. They were the ones who got the penalty before, which did put them the lap down. So this is a huge bonus for them to be able to get, basically undo all the damage that penalty for driver stints put on them. But ABB up front, again, you've got to be thinking, Josh has all this time to think. You'd hope he's got a good spotter in his ear telling him it's all going to be okay, just calm down, relax. This is where the spotters and the mental side of the game really takes effect, because you are just sitting here. All you're doing is time to think and getting ready for that, and basically getting all that nervous build-up energy for the restart again. It'd be interesting to see if Reese has something to say into turn one, or if he leaves it to Griffins, because I'm sure he's going to be trying to get into the mirrors of Josh as much as he can from that restart.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see, won't it? The ERT262 has come back into the pits, meanwhile, to get even more damage repaired. So Bowler is going to wait as long as he possibly can to get that done. Looks to me like the rest of the cars have made their way to the back of the pack, and they have the most pit stops in the field there at 18, that ERT car. And the least amount of pit stops is 11 for the number 51 car. So everyone has taken over 10 pit stops here. Jake Edwards in the Whitey's Pies car was also in the lane. He has just come out once again and will catch up to the back of the pack, as will Matthew Bowler. We're waiting on the call from race control here. The actually looks like the lights are no longer flashing there on the front of the Mercedes GT4, so we should expect green flag next time by, and we will have the entire field compressed together, all the cars still running at least, except for the Frog League Juice Racing black car. Dean Hunt having taken over that car after the driving time penalty for them. They are 5 laps down on the rest of the field, but still running, and they could definitely gain some of that back, at least a couple of positions, depending on what happens, Braden.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We've got Josh Anderson, who will take over control from the safety car once it pulls away down Conrod Straight. And as far as restarts go, you'd probably say the Bathurst restart as a lead is probably one of the more simple ones, with a pretty limited amount of space to get the restart done. You got a couple of options depending on how quickly the safety car gets away from the field and how much you back him up. But you can go maybe just before the entry to the last turn, or just out of the chase, or wait until you get through the final turn. So you wouldn't expect to see too much action happening into the last turn if you're going to leave it nice and late. But yeah, one of the more simple ones. You don't have to worry about draft coming out of the last corner, because it's a short pit straight here at Bathurst. But you will need to worry about some draft as you head up the mountain straight into turn 2, and that's where I think we'll see the most action.
Yeah, well, pace car has pulled away from the rest of the field. And now Josh Anderson will control the restart. Rainer Costello will make sure, Reece Gasul will make sure that he's right on the bumper of the ABB BMW. The one constant in the top 3 here is Jakub Kwiatkowski in the Team PGZ Ferrari. He is the only driver in the top 3 to have stayed in the car through that pit cycle. So now we get things ready to go. An hour and 38 minutes remain in the Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12 hour, presented by Bowler Media. And away we go. Green flag flies, and that's a very good restart from Josh Anderson. He was right on it. Just power down at the apex, and away you go. Let's see what Reece Gasul can do to keep that McLaren in contention here as they come through Hell Corner once again. Nice clean start through the first half of the field, and not much battling going on between drivers at the back of the field. But I can see that John Merritt in that bright yellow and red McLaren is making a move. Makes his way past Brock Kelly, who has taken over the Rust-eze Racing 95.
Yeah, that's
Only the Griffins, wasn't it, Braden? It was someone was going to have to do it. Someone was going to make it happen. I was surprised it didn't happen up front, but yeah, as we said, Josh Anderson's pretty solid head on his shoulders, really. So, but yeah, very clean start, Braden. Very clean restart. I like to see that.
Yeah, I just hope you haven't managed to jinx that after sending the Rust-eze car off into the grass last time you talked about someone doing something well. But Brock Kelly is in that Rust-eze car, and actually had the privilege of doing an endurance in the GRSC around Le Mans with Brock Kelly, and he is a superb driver. He has plenty of pace, so John Merritt popping himself in front of him just goes to show how confident he is in that McLaren, that he's going to be able to keep up the speed and keep Brock Kelly behind him.
Out of the Forest Elbow they come, and looks like Josh Anderson has gotten away to a fantastic start out the front already. He leads by 1.5 seconds. That ABB Racing BMW is supreme on the restarts, and Reece Gasul has not been able to get away from those guys. There's a bit of a fight back there from the 95, and that is another spot lost, unfortunately, for Kwiatkowski in the PGZ Ferrari. Forzan Ilnabi has taken over the Synergy Sim Racing BMW and promptly moves up into third. So now, Ilnabi versus Gasul. This will be quite the battle if Forzan is able to get up to the rear of that McLaren, which he should, considering the BMW is slightly better in terms of straight line speed, Wilco.
Yeah, it is, and it's going to be an interesting one. Some of the names we're throwing out here to be in with an hour and a half, 90 minutes left in the race. There's some very solid sim drivers in this field at the moment, so we're going to see some great racing as we see the replay of that move on PGZ. What a nice clean move down through the chase as he now gets on the back of Gasul. Basically, at this point of the race, as you were saying before, you're looking at Forest Elbow. How can I get this Forest Elbow turn right to get this move done at the chase yet again? As we see, we go back a little bit further in the field, we see the beaten up car of the racecraft car there behind Rust-eze, doing a great job, still going around, but look at the damage on the front of that car. It's still got to be a hard one to handle as we go down over Skyline, through the S's, into the Dipper, and all playing nicely, all doing well as we go back to a replay race.
Yeah, looks like some further issues here for the 95 SimSport Mercedes getting into the marbles there as the ERT 262 made a move on them at the cutting. They have managed to keep going though. Craig Schultz is now at the wheel of that car. This battle is not over here between Pulsar Chuka Toyota and Rusty's Racing. The slipstream is in effect here for Brock Kelly, and he has some good momentum over John Merritt, but not able to get the move done into the chase. Just behind them, though, there is a big look from Sam Sutton, who's taken over the TriStar Racing 222. Tried to make a move on Brad Ratu, and this has brought one of the Synergy cars in to this battle. Tom Freer. Nearly 3 wide. Looking to the inside, and that's another defense there from Brad Ratu, and Sutton moves over to cover the advance of the Synergy BMW. These guys are all fighting for 8th place on track, and it looks like they will exit Hell Corner, in the same order they came in. There's the attempted move from Sutton, and he was alongside Ratu, but Brad stuck his foot in it and held it round the outside, bumper to bumper contact, and that created a little bit of wibbly wobbliness on the way into Murray's Corner, Braden.
Yeah, I think everyone collectively holding their breaths when they saw that Synergy Sim Racing car sort of poke its nose up the inside and think about going 3 wide, but decided against it, as we hear a little bit of scraping on the wall there in the background as well. So starting to filter out into a couple of pockets of excitement, a couple of three-way battles rather, starting to form, and this one definitely doesn't look like it's over either. We've got the battle ahead with the Rusty's car and John Merritt in the Echuca Toyota, who has actually managed to make his way past the Ferrari that was in that group as well. So John Merritt not bothering to stick around and is pushing himself past, looks like is that the drop bear?
Yeah, it's a drop bear. Bailey Sweeney is now in between them. He made that move coming up the hill, I think it was. It was a very, very solid move. And yeah, the Pulse Chuka Toyota has got speed. There is a big gap now, though, to Team PGZ, 2 seconds in front and growing, but opened up the gap on Sweeney fairly easily. As we get a look here, it was up into Griffin's. Gets the draft perfectly and just comes out, gets the inside line, which is all you need. If you're Sweeney, you're not fighting this at this stage. Merritt's obviously got pace. You just want to sit behind now, stick with Merritt, and hopefully he gets you up to the group in front if you work together and drive well together. And both him and Rusty's can sit there and save a bit of fuel and maybe even just go a little bit longer and get that last pit stop, either less fuel or try and just go a little bit further and hope for a safety car to bring in. But lots of mind games going on now, I think, Reese, as we get close to that final stop mark.
Absolutely. Battle for second is on, and Forzan El Nabi right on the back of Reese Gasol now. McLaren versus BMW versus Ferrari for the second spot on the podium. Josh Anderson has continued to build a gap. It's now out to 2.2 seconds for the race lead, and the more these guys battle, the more that works into Anderson's favor. But one safety car, of course, can change all of that. Across the top of the mountain, the McLaren and the Ferrari are nice and strong. The BMW able to keep pace with them, but only just. And the McLaren is notoriously difficult to drive, but very fast when you get it right. Reese Gasol is just scything his way down the hill at the moment and keeping that up. Here is a move made by the 262 of Flock, Bowler and Linsell. Matt Bowler in the car here, and that is a very late move there on the 692 Drop Bear and Cosi car with Jack Stiles at the wheel of that one. They got their repairs done and they are still on the lead lap after their big incident out of the Griffin's Bend at turn 2. Seems that Stiles saw Bowler coming and let him go there. So 262 continuing to work their way up through the field at the moment. Their sister car is facing a two-pronged attack here from Synergy and PGZ as we come up to and have just passed 1.5 hours to go, Wilco. This is going to be a great finish if they can keep this up.
Yeah, it is, and we just got Taipan having a bit of a spin here at the bottom of the chase. I'd say gone off a little bit, but we'll have a look in a moment, I assume. But that's dropped them. They've lost about 4 or 5, 6 positions out of that little thing. I was just going to say how Evolution was really all over the quali last night, and to have one at the front is still a good effort. But I'm sure they're wanting to have 2 at the front so they could play little team games. It's the one thing we're missing out on. There's no real teams together at the top of the ladder anymore. As we get a look at this shot of the 268 driving deep, trying to do that same move and just getting a nudge from behind.
Yeah,
That's
Brant
gonna be
Tucker.
interesting. I don't think
Yeah.
they're going to keep that position that they got from that spin, the car of the TriStar.
Yep, Brant Tucker at the wheel of that one. And that's something that can very easily happen on the exit of the chase. If you have the outside line in a corner, you can usually take a straighter line through and get on the throttle a bit sooner. Tucker obviously thought that the 268 was going to have a better exit than he did. So they made contact on the way in. Meanwhile, we check out car number 50, WMB Sim Sports, Justin McLean at the wheel, chasing down Stefan McCartan, who has jumped back into the Crisscross Racing 51 car. These guys are battling for 11th place at the moment. They've got Scott Hazler pursuing them in the Frog Leap Juiced Racing blue car as well. This BMW trio, they have a long way ahead to Brad Ratu in the 8th place, in the 10th place car. Looks like Ratu has actually lost a couple of places there to Sam Sutton and Tom Freer as the move comes on here for Justin McLean. Diving up the inside of the chase, contact is made and both cars go off the circuit, and that is 2 freebies for Scott Hazler, who just sails on through like it's none of his business, which it isn't.
I've got to evoke was it the ice skater? I can't even say it now, but that was Bradbury. That's the one. Well, you got to sit there, Braden. If you're coming down the chase and you're seeing that happen, you just got to just slow up a little bit and let it all happen, and make sure you don't get caught up with it, and take those free spots as you come flying through.
Yeah, there's not a lot of lines to try and avoid if things go wrong. Thankfully, they went to the grass, but where you get worried with that is it's very hard to rejoin nicely, as we saw at Bathurst this year, or last year rather, when there's cars coming across the grass. But both cars did a good job, managed to get them back on the track nicely. So we look at the battle for 6th place, and I guess you could say 5th place as well, with the Pulsachuka Toyota racing car just up ahead. Drop Bear Motorsport just leading ahead of that Rusty's racing car, with Brock Kelly in it as we head across the top of the mountain. And that Brock Kelly looks like he's just having a little bit of trouble to stay on the back of these guys. We saw John Merritt get the move done earlier, and now the Drop Bear Motorsport car being through, but he has closed up a little bit more here across the top. So maybe a little bit more speed across the top and see what he can do down Conrad Straight now, because he is very close to the back of that Drop Bear car, and he's going to get a nice slipstream.
Yeah, I think like, the Drop Bear car might have just had a bit of a slower patch, but I love the way how, especially Brock Kelly, just threw that car at the dipper. They were not leaving anything. That was so aggressive. I love it, Brees. I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. Really good exit as well from the Rusty's Racing BMW, but not able to quite get alongside the DBM Ferrari. And behind them, the fight continues between Sam Sutton and Tom Freer. And these guys have been neck and neck for many laps now. Hard to really say who is the quicker driver at the moment. By 2/10 on the last lap, it was Tom Freer in that Synergy BMW there. But the Ferrari of Sam Sutton is able to keep pace and keep him behind for the time being. And considering that they were both at least a few tenths quicker than Kelly and Sweeney up ahead, this could become a 4-way battle for 6th place pretty soon, I'd have to say. Let's see what they can do across the top of the mountain then. But I think John Merritt, Braden, is checking out at the moment. He already made his move. He is putting the hammer down, and he's focusing on consistency at the moment to try and catch up to the top 4 battle.
Yeah, he would definitely be wanting to try and get up towards the front end and see if he can break away. As I think we're going to go to a replay of what that penalty was for.
Yeah, Brent
just
Tucker.
before. Yep.
So curious that this wasn't for the contact at the chase. Unless there was a problem with getting the replay spooled up. That TriStar racing car, I think, would undoubtedly be under the auspices of race control for that incident. But we keep our eyes peeled on the fight between Sam Sutton and Tom Freer here. They are gradually catching up to Sweeney and Kelly, who have been running a bit slower on this lap. Kelly in the slipstream. He's got some great momentum here over Bailey Sweeney, and he could go for the move here. He does. That's very late on the brakes. Can he pull it up for the chase in time? Or only just. Unfortunately, that has decreased the gap between these two car battles because Bailey Sweeney had to back out of it on the exit of the chase. Gives some space to Brock Kelly for going so deep, and now these cars are all together. The battle for 6th place is now between 4 cars. Wilco?
Yeah, and the big win. The big winner of that was Merritt. He's opened up almost 2 seconds on this pack now, really getting out. So very good, Brock Kelly. I think he was just getting held up just enough. I think that that Sweeney was just the cork in the bottle there for him. But here we go. This is a replay of the 2-2-2. This is not the penalty though. This is just an interesting overtake, hip and shoulder, as you go deep into Griffin's. Not the nicest thing. I'd assume, Braden, I think you'd be pretty unhappy with having someone down the inside like that on you.
Yeah, it was a late move to dive back to the inside, but I think the BMW that was caught on the outside was just trying to hold as close to the inside as possible and try and get any ounce of the camber that's offered in turn 2. But yeah, nothing wrong with that. Little bump, play on. All's well that ends well.
Look, it's a move. It's done. It'd be interesting to get the replay of that, understand what the penalty was for. But they've got a penalty hanging over their head anyway. But yeah, Merritt's really getting this lead on that pack now. It's almost out to 3. Oh, sorry, it's out over 2 seconds. It's growing ever quickly. But the gap between him and the front 4 cars is growing as well. So he's sort of in no man's land now, stuck into it. So we're watching something here, Reese.
Yeah, it looks like that is an on-board there of the Brad Ratu-driven car. That slight contact as Brant Tucker made his way through at Griffin's Bend. So good to see that Ratu was able to keep it on the black stuff there and out of the white stuff, the concrete wall. Checking back in with this 6th place battle, that Rusty's Racing BMW is definitely quick. It's not the other 2 cars in this fight have not been able to catch up to him. They have made their move on Bailey Sweeney, but seems that Brock Kelly was hiding a little bit of extra pace up his sleeve. Another incident at the same corner, same car here, and oh yeah, the 222 making their way past there. Sorry, I think the 222 was the car involved in the other replay we were looking at with the 9.5 Sim Sport car. So apologies to Brant Tucker for that, for misidentifying you as the driver of that car. The 999 driven by Brant Tucker did get a penalty there for that incident at the chase. So now right on the back of Brock Kelly is Sam Sutton. BMW, Ferrari, BMW. It is once again an Italian-German combination here as they come across the top of the mountain, and Sutton is looking mighty quick there on the exit of McPhillamy, but nothing he can do to make his way past on the way down into the S's. That is not a passing zone at the best of times, though. The Reina Costello move early on in the race definitely put paid to that. You can make passes there, you just got to be brave and you got to be trusting in the other driver. So out they come from Forest Elbow. Tom Freer on the back of Sam Sutton. but it doesn't look like there's going to be any chance of a big move here at the chase. They're just following in sequence, aren't they, Wilco? They're waiting to see how this battle plays out, and if one of them makes a move here on Brock Kelly, the other will follow, or they might not have to do that because Kelly went deep at the chase once again, and Sam Sutton made a little bit of contact with him. They stay in the same order, though. Pretty much no damage.
Yeah, I want to get Braden's idea on this because we're coming up to it anyway. If you're in Brock Kelly's spotting position right now, you've seen what Sutton's done the last couple of shots at Griffin. What are you telling Kelly to do going into Griffin's right here, right now? What are you saying? Are you staying over? Are you going deep, or are you just letting him by?
Well, it looks like he's offering up the inside already. It's really hard because if you fight it, you're likely to lose 2 or 3 positions as you get out on the greasy side, and it looks like the SR car is going to have a look down as well, and he might end up losing 2 positions. He will. So I think he did the right thing, trying to just offer up the 1 position and try and tuck back in behind, and he might actually lose another one as they go too wide into the cutting, which is never a nice place to be on the outside there. And Bailey Sweeney pulls out a little bit. But yeah, you kind of want to try your best to minimize the damage, and I definitely think if he wanted to hold on to the position, he had to stay on the right-hand side, but I think he's pretty comfortable just to tuck in behind again and maybe try and save some fuel.
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job at the moment. They would be happy with 8th at the moment. They don't want to wreck it if you hang out. I was going to actually say those last 2 incidents with Sam going down the inside, very good driving from the guys on the outside, not putting it in the wall. And ending their race there and then, because it's very easy to do out there if you've got a little bit too much momentum and know where to brake and lock it up, and you can end up in that wall very quickly, as we talked about before, Reese.
That you can. The fight for second is by no means over, meanwhile. Car 89 up the inside now of car 261, and that is a change. Second place now belongs to Synergy Sim Racing. Reese Gasol has not been able to keep that BMW behind or make any impression on the ABB Racing car up the front of the field. 2.8 seconds was the gap last lap. And now we check in with the 262 as well, making a move on one of the Frog Leap Juiced Racing cars. Matthew Bowler now up into 12th spot, it seems. So continued advance forward from one of the ERT cars, staying pretty consistent for the other one. And gap is now back out to 3.4 seconds for Josh Anderson now at the front of this field. That number 36, Braden, remains in control.
Yeah, I was just having a look at the lap times, and I know the Synergy Sim Racing cars had to fight his way past the Evolution Racing McLaren. But it was just checking in to see, can El Nabi make a dent into this lead? Is Josh Anderson, driving at 95%, 98%? I guess only time will tell. But it'll be interesting to see if over the next few laps, now that he's got some clean air, if he can make an indent in that lead.
Well, let's see then what Wayne Burt can do, or Forzan El Nabi, sorry, can do. Haven't seen much of Forzan in this race myself. I'm unsure of his all-up pace. So when he crosses the line on the next lap, we'll be able to see what kind of pace he can put down.
Oh, I've just seen in the background there,
WMB,
Justin
WMB
McLean.
block
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's big. Couple of cars involved in that one. It looks like McLean lost it all on his own coming down through the S's. That unfortunately is collected. Another one of the cars too.
The safety car, guys. This will be a safety car.
Yeah.
Yeah, he can't get that car straight. And he's right in the middle of the track. That's not where you want to be down there.
Look at those marbles you got to go around this car. Something's got to happen very quickly about that, because that's going to end someone's race yet again. I was going to say before, WMB seems to have been in the wars all day. There seemed to be... Oh, look at the rear right of that car. That's not right, Reese, is it? That's not how it's supposed to look.
No, certainly not. That's been knocked out of whack quite a bit. This is how it happened. Tow has been requested for the number 50, and this is how it happened. Yep.
Yeah,
lost it, and then big contact there. And this contact as the Crisscross racing car came in. Oh yeah, that secondary contact with the wall is what ruined it for the rear end. The safety car has been called as a result of that. The number 50 cannot get going. Fortunately, they've been able to get off the racing line on the exit of the dipper, so it won't be much harm done to other competitors. But tell you what, Braden, that is a big blow for that machine. The WMB Sim Sports crew has been through a lot.
Yeah, it's not a nice way. We're going to have a look at what Matthew Bowler was able to see as he was coming towards that incident. He's got the BMW in front of him there, and you see him straight away loose, and he had to get right on the brakes, but managed to get through safely and didn't get held up like the guys behind did with the track being blocked. But it's definitely not what you want to see as you're about to head down the dipper. It's a car off into the wall because you just don't know where they're going to end up.
Now, Reese, I want to jump in quickly. This brings strategy into play yet again. Hour and 13 minutes left. We have a safety car. Who goes for track position? Who gets the fill done here? I assume everyone's going to come in and get filled up, but who tries to save as much fuel as they can for the end? I guess we're going to see a lot of splash and dashes at the end of the race. Where are the fuel numbers sitting for this sort of period left?
I can't say 100%, but we do have evidence of, oh yeah, Merritt stays out indeed. Well, Merritt did that before, earlier on. We're going to be 13 laps short, it seems. Stints here last about 30 laps or thereabouts. Of course, that is potentially with safety cars involved as well. That gives you about an hour. So, yeah, it looks like pretty much everyone is going to have to make a splash and dash from this point. But that is a bit of a wild card there. The Pulsachuca Toyota McLaren staying out under safety car has granted them track position and had them do very well as a result in the past. But I don't know what they'd be counting on here to try and preserve that position.
Isn't it, Reese? That is bizarre. Like, you've got to make a splash. Their splash is now going to be bigger. They're praying for a second safety car to hold on to that track position, but even then they're going to fill up more than everyone else behind them at this stage. They're not going to hold the lead. We know that. They're pretty much not going to hold off John's. He was going pretty well, but he was losing it to second and third, so there's a very big potential that he loses those spots as well, and he was already in fifth. He only puts that fifth place in jeopardy by not going in, I feel. But we've also got Frog Leap Racing Blue has stayed out. Whitey's Pies might have stayed out as well. Yes. And then ABB retains the fourth position on the track now instead of the first that Josh was running in before this race.
Yes. The TriStar Racing 999 car of Brant Tucker has also stayed out under this safety car. Of course, just 6 laps ago, they had a drive-through penalty through the pit lane for that incident at the chase. So keep an eye on them as well to see what they do. And no surprise to see the Shakedown Sim Racing number 44 has stayed out as well. Jim Stoddart having pitted 14 laps ago, less than half of the way through his stint. So the field comes up behind the safety car now, and we look at a very different looking top 3 here.
I understand
Toyota, Frog Leap, and Whitey's Pies.
Yeah, I understand Whitey's Pies, and I understand Frog Leap. That they've they've gained a lot of track position out of this. And if we get another safety car, they get a plus. But yeah, John Merritt's I don't. Braden, you'd be straight in the pits, wouldn't you? You take every chance you can get in the pits before we get this thing launched.
Well, could it be a case of they know that they don't have the pace of the ABB racing team to just win on outright pace, and they've decided to, throw a bit of a Hail Mary and see what happens? It's one of those things. Maybe they're going with the old adage, if you're not first, you're last, and just decided, well, we want to have a crack at winning. This is the one way we feel like we can actually give ourselves a chance. And they do have a couple of cars in between them and the ABB car now on the restart, which may prove a bit more difficult for them to get past and might give them a chance to scoot away from the field. But yeah, for me, it looks like we don't feel like we can win based on outright pace, so we're going to try and do something different.
It's set up for a spicy restart now with Whiteys and Frog Leap in between ABB and Pulsar Trigger. I've got no harms in John's speed. He's definitely going to have the speed to be able to get away and get a good little buffer, but I think Josh's Henderson and Fazem El Nabi's got enough pace to be able to get past those first two. But it's those two, the 99 and the 65, as they drop back through the field a little bit. It'll get very interesting, won't it, Reese, as the field tries to comprehend getting past those cars in particular and also fighting for position.
Yeah, as the waiver rounds come into effect, we see that the Frog Leap Juice Racing black car will get a lap back. There will now be 4 laps down on everyone else, and give it another 3 laps, and they will pass the WMB Sim Sports BMW if they remain in the pits. Looks like that's the only car that has been that has warranted a waiver round. Only car more than a couple of laps down and still circulating, as we see a run into the pits for one of the Crisscross Racing cars. That is the number 51, Stefan McCartan at the wheel, and we see some damage on that machine. He might elect to get some damage repair here under safety car. It's one of the best times to get damage repair done, Braden, because everyone's circulating slowly, so you don't end up losing a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It's something you see a lot in oval racing. When the safety car comes out, you come down the pit lane, get as much optional repairs done as you possibly can and fix up as much as you can, and then head back out just before the safety car comes around and then duck back in. I was just having a think about this plan from John Merritt and looking at the timer, 1 hour and 7 minutes left. Looks like the safety car lights are off, but it would be interesting to see if at the end of the safety car, if it had have stayed out just one more lap, if there was more waiver rounds to get done or something, if he might have been able to pit as the safety car left, and he might have been able to get home from there. Although the lights are back on, so
You would lose track position then at that stage, I believe. If you're at the back of the field, let's say you're 9, 5, 7, or Drop Bear and Cozy, or one of these guys, we're getting close to that hour mark. If we're doing another lap, it would be very beneficial to jump in, fill the tank up, even if it's just the 5, 6 litres that they've burnt in these couple laps. Jump back out, get back onto the tail of the field, and then fuel save till the end. You could almost get away without having to do that stop, because Bathurst is such a long track. Even one lap under the safety car still burns a fair chunk of fuel, doesn't it, Reese?
Yeah, it does, but that's where fuel maps can come in as well. There's going to be drivers obviously running in 6th gear and coasting as much as they can. It used to be that you could pull the clutch and bring the engine revs down to idle and save a ton of fuel that way, but iRacing have been gradually removing that ability from many of the cars that were benefiting from it. So I'm not too sure if that's happened for the GT3s, but definitely drivers want to use their fuel maps to save a bit of fuel as well. Regardless, getting a car around a racetrack still requires a bit of fuel, and they have to factor that into their calculations.
It's interesting we're going for another lap as well. I thought we would have been racing for now. There is a car, like I said, 957 has pulled into the pits. They will be topping up on fuel, maybe doing some damage. They would have optionals in their car, and you can see the car behind, the Shakedown Racing of the 51 as well. Crisscross Racing, sorry. Shakedown Racing, sorry about that. Crisscross Racing car coming in to probably getting some more optionals done, which is another big part of this as well, but also topping up on that fuel. Hour and 5 minutes to go. It will help when we get to that. They're not giving up track position. They're not giving up places realistically. They're just adding a little bit of fuel in, which next stop will mean that they they don't have to put as much fuel in. They could potentially grab that extra couple spots in the pits, which is way easier to get them than trying to get someone under heavy braking in the chase, and a lot less risky as well.
Yeah, so they've been averaging about 3 minutes 45 behind the safety car. So I think by the time we get round for the restart, we'll be just above that hour mark left. So I'll be interested to see what John Merritt does do. Maybe it's a master strategy that none of us expected, but it's going to be interesting because there will be some cars that will like their chances of getting home with just over an hour left if they can save the right amount of fuel, and one less trip down the pit lane than everyone else is always a benefit, Reese.
Indeed it is. Well, we have confirmation now that the safety car will start moving away from the field, and car number 64 will lead them away.
Well, I was looking at the numbers, Reese, quickly. 18 laps since Merritt pit last, same with the two behind him, basically. He's really only got about 11 or 12 laps left in the tank. So we need a safety car in that 11 or 12 at best. So really in the next 5 or 6 to 8 laps, we need a safety car for him to hold that track position. Otherwise, he's going to do a green flag stop where others have that much bigger window now. So... but yeah, the safety car has moved away by the look of it. The field is in John Merritt's control, Reese, and I'll leave it in your control to call this spicy restart.
Yeah, it will be spicy indeed. The former top 3 cars are now 4th, 5th, and 6th, so they're going to have to fight their way through the Whitey's Pies and Frog Leap Blue cars at the very least. John Merritt was still a few tenths slower than them on outright race pace as well. So plenty to think about here. How will this restart go? It's all going to be about the run through Griffin's Bend and up to the cutting, I think. That is going to define how things go here, because if one of those cars in 4th, 5th, 6th, maybe even 7th place as well makes a move before that point, the drivers behind them will have to deal with single file running. John Merritt leads the field away here on the throttle on the exit of Murray's Corner. And we're back to green flag action. Really good restart from John Merritt. It seems that the 99 car with Scott Hazler at the wheel was not quite as quick on the uptake as he could have been. Same for Jake Edwards too. That McLaren already has a sizable gap on the way out of Hell Corner. And everyone in single file behind. Another clean restart for the time being. Do see some potential for side-by-side, but not quite. Tom Freer not able to get past Brock Kelly on the way through Griffin's Bend. It seems that the pack chasing this top 3 that stayed out under safety car have not been able to make up any kind of gap, so they're going to have to stay single file, let the tires get back up to temperature. Oh no, the 999 spun at the cutting, and it seems another Ferrari was involved as well. That's the DBM Beyond Blue car. That is a huge one.
Yeah, and maybe part of the plan for Merritt was to be at the front so he wasn't tangled up in any of the stuff happening behind him at the moment, but I don't think that restart could have gone much better for John Merritt, as he's managed to skip away from the 2 behind him. And like you said, there's been no move made by the former number 1 car in P4 at the moment. So it'd be interesting to see what he can do down into the chase. And you can see that gap that Merritt already has, Wilco, as they head down Conrod Straight.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's got a great start, but Josh just isn't anywhere able to. He's not even close enough here at the moment. As you can see, Whitey's Pie is making the move down the inside there. But I expected at least 1 or 2 of those guys to be overtaken. Overtaken before this point of the race at least. You can see him getting right up close now. We're going to go to a replay, though, of that incident. You can see going into the cutting here, and it looks like TriStar's hit the wall.
Oh!
Interesting, Reese. Take us through, explain to the viewers what's happened there if they don't understand.
I cannot.
Hold on, Reese. The drop bear's struggling to get back to the pits at the moment. It's stuck.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not going anywhere. We're going to have a safety car. This is going to be perfect for John Merritt because he'll be able to go in, get the fuel he needs, and get home.
Yeah, requesting a tow in the 862. That was a very bizarre incident there for the TriStar car. We already saw something like it happen at Forest Elbow in the first few hours. A car going to the inside wall. It seems that a section of the car just catches on the wall and it just slams them to a complete stop. So that, unfortunately, has taken the TriStar racing car out of contention, and the Drop Bear DBM car, not too sure on that, but that happened very quickly, and that unfortunately has involved the ERT 262 as well. Matthew Bowler carrying some heavy damage from that one. So it looks like the DBM Beyond Blue has been granted a tow. No safety car for that one. It was parked behind the wall and close to a Marshall extraction point, so OSR Race Control determined that the car could be removed from the circuit without triggering a safety car.
You've got a feel for John Merritt there, don't you, Reese? That's he's won Lotto, and now he's gone to, I've got a pit in the next 6 or 7 laps.
Yeah, that's very unfortunate. Well, there's plenty of potential for another big incident to happen in the intervening couple of moments. So all they can do is press on at this stage. John Merritt leads across the line by 2.8 seconds. That's the gap for the lead. And the ABB and SSR BMWs that we're having on screen at the moment, again, have not been able to make much of an impression here. This is what happened to Dan Yeaman to trigger that tow request. Just caught the curb in the S's, and already the car was heavily damaged from the incident at the cutting, so massively unstable, and it was all Yeaman could do to get it down the hill.
Hayden, do you think there's something going on here? ABB's running at 2 minutes and 2 seconds, which actually isn't too slow, but they're extremely slower than, like, we're talking 1.2 seconds a lap slower than Merritt on the last lap. Is there some fuel numbers they're going through? They're racing to a fuel usage right now. They think they might be able to get home, or what?
Well, they know all 3 cars ahead have to pit, so there's no need to do anything crazy. They're effectively going to shuffle themselves right back in the pack without that safety car getting called out. So they'll pass them when they go into the pits. Maybe they're using it as an opportunity to save a little bit of fuel in the process, but I think they would know that they're, at the moment, kind of net first place once this rest of these pit stops shake out. But you definitely got a feel for John Merritt. He must be thinking that he just pulled off a really, really good strategy, and now he's going to have to push as hard as he can. The other part to that as well is obviously Merritt has got a lot less fuel on board at the moment than the ABB racing car as well, so that's going to... Oh no!
Oh dear! That's almost race over there. It is.
That
will surely be a safety car. Oh no!
He's kept it going. That is huge for Reese Gasol in the ERT 261. That is the main incident at the chase.
Do they have a
that takes you out? They still have a fast repair. So Reese Gasol is going to go straight for the pits here and get that car repaired. They will be counting on another safety car before the end of this race to try and salvage a podium placing here. This is how it went down. It was an attempted move on the team PGZ Ferrari, sent off into the grass, and there was nothing Reese Gasol could do to stop that McLaren before it slams into the tyre barrier.
That is very interesting. Race Control's going to have fun with that one. That'll be interesting indeed, but that's not the best day officially for Evolution at all. That's really taken what was going to be an okay day into a not a very good day at all. ABB, as Josh Anderson has got past the Frog Leap Racing blue of Scott Hasler, and moving on now to try and get on the back of Jake Edwards in the Whitey's Pie entry, using every ripple strip he can. Bantamly, there's damage on the side there of that car where he's just grazed the paint on the way past. You saw the sparks come up. He's pushing fairly hard to get on the back of this Whitey's Pie and to see what he can do. But that is a very unfortunate end for Evolution, and I don't think they'll be happy in that garage, will they, Braden, at all?
Well, before Braden jumps in, I'm just going to cut in and say this has locked ERT261 into not having to pit for fuel towards the end. They took fuel in that pit stop while they repaired the car, Braden.
Yeah, so any safety car or any other sort of trickery that comes up is definitely going to benefit them now. They've just got to put in as many hot laps as they can, and they won't have to worry about fuel saving or anything like that. But still, I guess that's where it's important to have your fast repair. But I'm just so surprised at the speed they went into that tyre bundle. How often do you see cars get wedged in the fence and not be able to get out? They were very lucky.
They were, and also the fact that it's an incident. They've got the pit stop out of it. They've also got a fresh car, so all these cars you can see that the ABB of Josh Anderson there's got the scrapes down the side. This is a fresh car. This is a fast car now. They will be able to put in some laps now. Obviously, they've got no safety net now, but any little niggling problem they had with that car has just been erased by that big incident. As obviously track position, everything else has hurt them, but there is that silver lining, isn't there, Reese, to that little incident there?
Yeah, there is. Remains to be seen what Reese Gasol will be able to do with that, though, as the 222 TriStar Racing car pursues the Synergy Sim Racing 707. Tom Freer has made his way past Sam Sutton, and the incident between the 261 and the 111 that resulted in Gasol smashing into the wall, that's interesting from race control. No further action. It has been determined as a racing incident. So, yeah. And thinking about it, I don't know what penalty you could assign, if any. This is how Sutton and Freer negotiated each other up at the cutting. Very good defense there from Tom, but it seems that Sam Sutton is turning up the aggression dial, Braden.
Yeah, that's exactly right. As we see, little move there. Forzen is through and now has a chance to chase back up onto the back of the ABB racing car. And John Merritt continues to pump out the hot laps. He was around about a second quicker than anyone else around Mount Panorama last lap. So he's doing his best to try and extend that lead as much as he can, but probably looking at pitting in the next sort of 7 or 8 laps. And I guess that'll be where we see if this move has paid off for him or if it's caused him some heartache around the mountain.
Well, racing in behind the Whitey's Pies entry. Frog Leap Juice Racing Blue has already fallen behind 2 of the former top 3 cars there, with the 36 and the 89, and it's looking like the 111 is looking to do the same thing. Kwiatkowski on the back of Scott Hazler there in this shot here, coming up to the cutting once more. And we see now that we can bring someone in for a little bit of a chat. Driver of the 999 TriStar Racing car, Brant Tucker, is with us in the comms box at the moment. Hi, Brant. A bit of an unfortunate running for the 999 car in these last few laps.
Yeah. First of all, sorry to the DBM boys. Taken that same line very similarly throughout the day. Apparently the wall decided to be hungry and take a big bite out of my Ferrari. In car, it looked like I was tripping on acid, so it was definitely an interesting experience, that's for sure.
Yeah, very unfortunate, especially when an incident like that takes you out. It's definitely something that's completely unexpected.
Yeah, it's not ideal. That last safety car kind of fell awkwardly for us, about 15 minutes out of the window for Sam to jump back in. So we were just trying to bide our time until Mr. Muir could jump back in the car.
Still 50 minutes to go in the race. Do you expect that you'll be able to get back out there to at least take the checkered flag?
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I just seen Sam just disconnect, so either Luke or myself will at least get out there and take the checkered. No point calling it quits, you know, this close to the end of the race. So yeah, just a little bit unfortunately, a little bit frustrating. 4 hours in the race, we were, I think, 26th and 2 laps down. So to be up there and, you know, fighting it with some of these guys, and especially for myself, was, you know, was a really good time. Was just phenomenal. So disappointing end of the day, but we still got the 222 out there fighting hard.
Yeah, indeed we do. So can you give us an insight into what the plan is for the 222 at the moment? Sam Sutton is having to defend massively from Tom Freer now. Those guys have been inseparable since the last couple of safety cars. So, you know, what's the deal with pit strategy? Because I think the 222 was one of the cars to pit on the last safety car, and they might be facing a splash and dash.
I honestly cannot, hand on heart, cannot say. The two cars have been in separate Discord rooms all day, just so we can quite easily communicate and whatnot. So I'm not sure what Sam has planned for the 222. Your guess is as good as mine at this point in time. I trust him wholeheartedly. So we'll see what rabbit he pulls out of the bag. Sitting 8th at the moment, so sitting nice and snug in that top 10.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, Brant Tucker, and you have SimSpeed TV's condolences for that incident that took your car out. Hopefully we'll be able to see you back on track before the end of the race.
Cheers, guys, and sorry to Jay for turning him around. Was just a little bit heavy-footed on the gas pedal. Absolutely did not mean that. So apologies to the 268 boys, and thoroughly deserved that drive-through.
Well, Brant Tucker there, accepting the responsibility. Good to have a chat with Brant. It's been a while since I've heard his voice. Either way, we still have 48 minutes worth of racing to go, and this 222 starting to pull out a slight gap on the 707 BMW. But I think Tom Freer is going to be a thorn in Sam Sutton's side for quite some time to come. They do have a bit of an issue behind them, though, and it will be an issue soon. It's Matthew Bowler in the Evolution Racing Team 262. That car still has damages. There is a move. That is the ABB Racing car making their way past the Whitey's Pies entry. Very interesting indeed, Wilco. That is now Josh Anderson turning up the wick. He is having a run here, and he knows that John Merritt is going to have to pit in the next few laps.
Yeah, look, that's it. I've been very keenly looking at the numbers in the background while you were having that interview, and we saw Rusty's come in for the first one to blink and actually get in and pit. 35 seconds transit time on pit lane put them from 11th back to 16, just ahead of 261 Evolution Team racing team. They hold a 5-second lead over them at the moment. So that is where they sit. Didn't really help them, Evolution, but if we run that, Merritt has to do about a 46 second. It's going to put him back around about, shake down to about 15th at the moment. So this is what we're looking at, the numbers of the pit stops that have to be made, because Merritt's going to have to fill, have to half a tank. So let's say maybe around about 13th or 14th is where he's going to come out when they finally do have to pit. But we will start seeing those who want to just get the pit stop out of the way, which is great for track position. If we do get a yellow flag at some stage, they'll be filled up, don't have to pit. But there'll be the people who try and run it right to the end and then use that extra speed, as we just see the results of PGZ getting past the Frog Leap Racing Blue there, finally getting themselves up into 5th place, and will now be trying to keep up with Fazem El Nabi. We see the replay of this at the chase. Just late breaks, great job. I think Frog Leap didn't want to have a bar of it, and here we go, and he'll go off to chase down Fazem again, Reese.
Yes, indeed. Fazem El Nabi has shown that he can definitely run some quick pace here, running high 202s, and the two cars ahead for position, I'd say 3, including the Pulsar Chuka Toyota car, mostly running a little bit quicker, but I think there's going to be a few changes there, especially when John Merritt decides to come into the pit lane from the lead. Shakedown Sim Racing making what we expect to be their final pit stop of the race. And Bailey Stephen will make sure that that car gets to the finish in one piece. A far cry from where they thought they'd be on the very first lap, Braden. So many good stories to come out of this race.
Yeah, as with every endurance race, there's stories of resilience and luck and bad luck and many different tales that you get to hear. And these are the kind of races that you talk about with your team for a long time. All the things that go wrong, all the things that go right. Sometimes it's good luck, and other times it's down to just being consistent and safe and doing the right thing. And that's what you can kind of say about John Merritt out in front. Although he's taken quite a risk with this pit strategy, one thing he has done is kept the car very, very clean all day with barely an incident point to his name. I think just 2 for the whole 11 hours and 17 odd minutes so far. So in that amount of time, when you've got other cars pushing up above the 50 incidents, it's an impressive drive for the Chuka Toyota Pulse Racing team.
Matthew Bowler versus Hayden Sell, who's taken the 952 back over from Brad Ratu. This is a battle that we might see come up to the Freer Sutton battle up ahead. Could be a 4-way fight towards the end, and all of these cars pitted under the safety car. So we should expect them in at some point as the Taipan Esports 268 comes into the pits. Jai Potts is going to hand back over to Lockhart Brownlee in that particular pit cycle. Now, I'm just double checking their minimum driver times there. Jay Potts has it looks good. 38, 39 laps or thereabouts for Jay Potts in that car. So they are in the clear here, and Lockhart Brownlee will bring that one to the finish as the 707 continues to chase down the 222, and the 64 continues to be the one of the pace setters at the front of the field. About to start the 300th counted lap of this race in terms of laps taking place within the 12 hours, probably around the 296th or 297th lap. Looks like a pass has been made for third. Forza Nolnabi has gotten past the Whitey's Pies entry here, Braden, and will be released once more to try and chase down the ABB Racing entry.
Yeah, as Wilco was saying earlier, it's taken them a little bit longer than I was expecting, but I guess the fuel difference between the cars obviously makes it a little bit different, a little bit more difficult, as we see coming down through the kink. Ooh, actually got it done through the kink, and not a lot of resistance from the Whitey's Pie car that are just letting them go. 300 laps, Wilco, it's quite a significant one for us. The only time we've done the Bathurst 12 hour, it's exactly how many laps we managed.
It was that we didn't even have enough fuel to get around to do the jump. That was the part that I keep on getting reminded about. But that's a hell of a move. I know Whitey's has given it up, but that's not the place you give it up. That would have given Josh a little bit of heart palpitations as all of a sudden he's got to go over that bump. And I've practiced it today. If you hit that ripple strip on the way through the fastest corner in Australian sim racing, your car just gets a little bit unbalanced going into the braking area of the chase. So not the best, but yeah, 300 is our mark, the Locked On Lads racing team from a couple of years back, and I hope we're going to beat that when we go to the officials in a couple of weeks' time, Braden.
Fingers crossed. The people who are going to beat that today is the people out on track here for the OSR. Bathurst 12 hour doing a much better job than we did, and they come down the hill, and we're having a look at the Frog Leap Juice racing team coming into Forest Elbow, and is going to try and get a nice run out and follow this lovely looking Ferrari down Conrod Straight, but probably not close enough to get a move done at this point. As the number, ooh, my timing is all frozen up, so I can't
You've
even
got to
see
look
what
at-
number that is. The number
They've got a pit
111.
very soon, Braden. They've got a pit. They're in the 29th lap. I know we had some
Pulsachuka is
safety cars
in.
in there. There we go.
There you
Merritt
go,
has
leader's in.
blinked. He's in. Reese, I think the next one is going to be Scott Hasler as well. He's staying out again, going another lap.
Stay out.
Saving the fuel in PGZ, behind PGZ though, and going to go another lap, which interesting to see. Let's see where Achuka comes out, because we'll see if this John Merritt actually hops out of the car. So Reese, it's going to be interesting. You'll replay though, Reese.
Yeah, we have indeed. Look at how close they end up getting to the wall there in the Frog Leap juiced entry. For Pulsachuka Toyota, the reason I think John Merritt got out of the car is that he was in danger of exceeding the maximum amount of laps here. That car is steered to the left. Oh, Dennis Gatterick very quickly straightens the car out. That would have been an embarrassing error if that had carried through. 31.5-second box time for the driver change. So they didn't have to put all that much fuel in the car, it being only 40 minutes remaining. But having to do that driver change to stop John Merritt going over the 75 lap limit, that would, I think, be quite unfortunate for them. As things stand, I think Merritt might not have been in too much danger of exceeding it, because Merritt started driving that McLaren on lap 250, or lap 251 rather, and he got out at the end of lap 300. That is...
Did that play into, when was our safety car? No, it was only about 15 laps ago. So he'd done the minimum, covered the minimum stint. So
it's a
that
solid
wasn't...
50 laps, and with 40 minutes to go in the race, that is a maximum of 20 laps remaining. So he still would have been clear.
Is it possible he did more laps earlier in the race and couldn't exceed the maximum total laps driven over the course of the race, and that might be the case?
Potentially.
Yeah, I wonder if the lap count did play a part in staying out at somewhere shape that we're not quite understanding at this stage, as we see Whitey's Pies making the entry into the pit lane as well. But the 262 here is all over the back. Bowler doing a great job of Hayden Sell, keep making him work for his money, keeping his mirrors full of that Evolution Racing car. After it looks like Snell's actually made the move to get past. There you go. I didn't realise that he was actually in front. The 262 trying to get that position back, and look at him fighting going into Griffin's. I can tell you he wanted that inside line as much as he could. But that was a great move from Snell, don't you reckon, Braden? I think that was a pretty good move.
Yeah, it certainly was. Sorry, I'm just trying to do some calculations in the background.
I caught him in the middle of mathematics. He's
yeah,
not the
trying to
best
do
math
two
person.
things at once. That's not true. So I've got John as doing 123 laps in total so far. So I'm not quite sure. I missed this morning what the maximum percentage of the race is for. They're a 3-driver team, I believe. So is that 25%, Reese? Do you remember from the start?
Feed the numbers to me once more. I missed them.
So they're a 3-driver team. What's the maximum percentage they can run?
I believe Jay has a graphic for that. From memory, 40% max.
Okay, so 123 is well short of the 40%. So interesting. Further investigation needed.
Indeed.
I'll have to have a chat to him at some stage, I think. But this is an interesting battle. Like, Bowler is using that flashing headlight button as much as he can. Oh, this is a different battle, sorry. This is further up the track. Jay's gone to PGZ with that Frog Leap Racing blue car, which has to pit at some stage. I suspect it peeling off here. It's been 31 laps, and then here it goes. Final stop needing to be made here. It'll be a long one, unfortunately, and he'll lose all that track position. But good effort and good call, I think, from him at least, because they were way down the pack before that pit lane. And we see the Evolution Racing car, the 262, which I was just talking about, in behind. I suspect that was a case of the fact that he felt he was getting held up behind Cell and going to try and overtake in pit lane, do a bit of an undercut. on
There's
him.
Gaderick
Another
making
great
the
move, Gaderick. Yes.
Yeah, that's on the 9.5 SimSport Mercedes. Now, this Pulsar Chuka Toyota car has come out in well, what is now 11th place after making that move, 43.1 seconds behind the leader. Now, we've still got to think about the lead cars making a splash and dash towards the end. 34 minutes to go. That's about 16 or 17 laps worth of racing, provided we stay green. 16.5 laps completed so far for our leaders since their last stop to fuel the car up. So they will likely be 2 or 3 laps short, and no amount of fuel saving is going to alter that at this stage.
We get a safety car race.
Well, yeah, a safety car definitely would help things out, but provided we stay green, the ABB Racing, SSR Wave Runner, Team PGZ, all of those guys, they are going to have to jump into the pits one more time. So
the numbers that I'm looking at have 34-ish seconds for the teams that have done their final pit stop. So what are they, 43 seconds behind the leader at the moment? It's going to bring him out about 9 seconds behind, but yeah, it's going to be tight. So at the moment, you'd probably have them maybe net third based on the times that they're putting in. So it'll be quite an interesting end to this race.
I'm just quickly going to jump in. We're watching PGZ on thing. We know Jacob's quick, right? He's doing 2:04s at the moment. He's just been overtaken by Sam Sutton. That's not normal. That's at least 1 to 2 seconds a lap off, unless he's carrying damage that I don't know. There you go. So there was a huge clutch we're hearing in the background from down the chase there. He's fuel saving like crazy. I think there's a suspicion that he thinks he can get home. Somehow, magically, if everything goes his way, he's just letting off, because you don't let someone pass at that stage when you've had pace all day in the last half hour of a 12-hour race if you haven't got a plan up your sleeve, Braden. I think there's something going on here with him, and it's going to be interesting to play out. In 32 minutes time, we'll have some answers.
Yeah, he obviously knows something that we don't know. We get the benefit of having a little listen, but if he can stick in behind the Ferrari in front of him as well, that's going to aid any fuel saving that he's trying to do. So yeah, it's interesting to see how these different strategies are going to play out, and maybe we'll have a wild card heading towards the front of the field that we weren't quite expecting. It's felt like ABB Racing's race for most of the day, but you just don't know in these endurance races. Anything can happen.
Indeed. Sorry for the brief step away there. Unfortunately, my brother locked himself out of the granny flat, and I had to handle that for him. I am back now, though, and, well, we've got a lot to think about coming into the final half hour of this race. Car 261, another issue for them, but well recovered there for Reece Gussul. It has been a wild ride for this man in the last couple of hours, from taking their fast repair thanks to going straight on into the chase, contact with another car, to trying to fight to get back into the top 10 right at the end, guys. I mean, my heart breaks for them, because they were one of the contenders for victory here today. They qualified on the front row, and they've been able to keep pace with the ABB Racing car, but unfortunately incidents like that just leaving them out of contention.
Yeah, it's also down to the fact of putting yourself in the wrong position at the wrong time. Like, those two cars should not have been side by side going into the kink. That's just a given. So little thing like that's put them in a position where they're fighting back. They're back to 12th. I suspect they're going to get well and truly into the top 10 when a few of the people ahead of them do pit. The interesting part is they've been 54, 55 seconds off the lead ever since they came back out from that incident. That has not changed. So they are keeping pace, even though they're doing 2:04s at the moment. They have been keeping fairly good pace with whoever is in front of the leader. We know 35 seconds to 55 seconds is a pit stop, depending on what happens. So they will get a few people ahead of them, but they were the fastest in quali one last night. They were right up there with the. They were definitely had one of the fastest cars on the track in the top 15 shootout. So it's very disappointing, unfortunately, but they'll hopefully get back to that top 10, Braden. And you know how much 12 hours at the end of the race, being anywhere near the top 5, how much of a victory that can be, though.
Well, I certainly don't know what it's like, but I can only imagine. As we're having a look at this run into the chase, again, I wonder if there was a big clutch from that 111 car. I did note in the background, our producer did tell us that the 262 car used the fast repair in that final pit stop as well. So the amount of cars left with a fast repair is certainly dwindling down. It's a little bit of a clutch there, not as big as it was when he let the car ahead through a couple of laps back, but still a little bit of fuel saving going on as we enter the last half an hour of this race, Reese. It really could go anyway.
Yeah, it could. 3.3 seconds is the gap for the lead, and it's still on here for the TriStar 222 with Sam Sutton at the wheel. They have been gradually edging their way forward with Tom Freer and the 707 behind, and now they ensconce the Team PGZ Ferrari. I'll tell you what, the performance from that Ferrari and that BMW in these last couple of hours has been nothing short of brilliant. They now hold on to the battle for the podium. And like you say, Braden, it could go either way. Down into the S's. Not much to say about that, because here comes the 261 of Reece Gasul, 12th place now, and chasing down the number 95 Rust Ease Racing car with Brock Kelly at the wheel. And that Rust Ease Racing car was definitely looking for a potential top 6, top 5 at one stage. Now they are one of the cars looking at potentially getting another pit stop in before the end of the race. No, actually, they pitted 10 laps ago, so they are ready. My apologies. Completely missed that one.
You can see they've been all over the field, starting down in the 20s, being up as high as 4th, and now sitting in 11th. So they've certainly had their fair share of action today. As this battle pack just continues to plod along, doesn't look like anyone's looking too racy. It's getting to that point of the race where you're thinking about making moves, or in the 111's case, thinking about how they can get this car home to the end. And you can see the BMW, in the background, slowly creeping up towards them as well. So head up mountain straight for what is probably over 300 times today now.
Whoa. Okay.
Keep it off the wall. That's okay. I was just about to say quickly, Braden, before we go on to that, Joshua Anderson has no thought trying to get home on fuel or fuel saving at all. He's butting out 2-minute 2 flats, which is some of the fastest laps we've really seen for a while as we see a replay of this. The 261 diving down deep as the sun all day, and then just cutting it across. I felt like Rusty's Brock Kelly just lost it on his own. Might have gone a little bit deep and come across there, but it's an unfortunate error.
Maybe distracted by those big flames coming out the back of that McLaren.
That's it. But yeah, no, Josh Anderson he's punching out some really fast times, Reece, so he knows he's got to pit again. 3 minutes and 3 seconds, 3.5 seconds ahead of Fazem El Nabi, and growing that lead by at least half a second a lap at the moment. So the interesting part is it's 14 seconds back to that Team PGZ car. That's the current gap there, and it's 45 seconds back to the car that's leading of all the cars that have pitted to the end. Wow.
Yeah, was there contact there? Probably a graze at most, not too sure. Meanwhile, you mentioned the PGZ Ferrari. Well, they've just been passed by the Synergy 707 of Tom Freer. And now the PGZ crew back down to 5th place. This is how it happened. So Freya was on the attack here on the way into the chase. A very late dive under brakes, but managed to pull it up and hit the apex for good measure. So Jakub Kwiatkowski not able to quite respond to that, though he is in the slipstream on the way up to Griffin's Bend. See how hard he tries to fight this one. Every car in the top 6 is on the same strategy at the moment, but we can definitely see from the pace being shown by the 36 that, as you guys mentioned, there is no chance of them making it to the end or fuel saving at all. Second place, SSR Wave Runner, also in the 201s on the last lap. So Forzen El Nabi is looking to make it a full-on sprint, splash and dash towards the end of the race as well.
Yeah, I think it reads to me like someone has just whispered to them, PGZ's going to get home and you need to make up 35, 34 seconds on them, which is, it's now blowing out to 15, 16 seconds. They're doing it by over a second a lap. It just feels like there's been a whisper there, and these guys have really turned it on, because 201s, we haven't seen 201s for age. Obviously, the track temperature's probably dropping down a little bit, but still they're punching out some really fast numbers here, and PGZ is just not, and we know they've got a fast car.
Yeah, for sure. We saw how quick Kwiatkowski was at the very start of the race, and regardless of the conditions, he would probably still be able to keep some kind of good pace up. The fight then becomes for third between the two Ferraris and the BMW sandwiched in between them. And Sam Sutton has been doing a great job in that TriStar Ferrari, the red and black machine at the front of this group. But Tom Freya, as we saw with that aggressive move on Kwiatkowski, definitely starting to reel him in here. There was also a change for position I noticed for 9th. Looks like Matthew Bowler has gotten past Dennis Gatterick and put the Pulsar Chuka Toyota car back to 10th. Also, Brock Kelly has put the Rusty's racing car past the Whitey's Pies entry of Tyson Styles into 12th place. So I'm not too sure what to make of the fight between the two McLarens here. Remember, Bowler's car was carrying quite a bit of damage before, but they have taken repairs there, and Dennis Gatterick yielding to him in the chase. And that was the car that stayed out and led the last restart, the number 64. Where can they go from here? What can they do?
Just having a ride on board the last lap with Team PGZ Ferrari. I wonder if we can get an onboard. Looks like we are, as he goes down into the chase, and just listen to how much fuel saving he's doing. It was such a large lift. It was almost before the kink and just really rolling himself down into the chase. So we're going to get a run down Conrad here, and hopefully we'll be able to have a listen to just how much fuel saving he is doing to presumably get this car home. There you go.
Oh yeah, that's insane.
A lot of fuel saving there, so he's obviously looking to get home, or at the very least he's going to be making this last stop a lot shorter.
Yeah, that could definitely work in their favour.
They'd be practicing that too in lead up. They'd know exactly what they've got to do to hit a certain number, and when they saw with an hour and 15 to go that number was an option that they could possibly do, that they needed to do, and he would have practiced that. They'd know exactly what to do, but it needs a minor miracle. You need these two cars in front to drag him down that straight like that, and for him to be able to get away with that kind of a lift and still be competitive. It is out to 16 seconds, so it's not actually going. It's actually gaining on the leader at the moment, which is quite interesting with Josh Anderson. That interval is roughly around the same part, so he's doing a good job at the moment, Reese. I think it's going to be, we've got 20 minutes to go. There's the 23 laps currently the leaders are on since they pitted last, so we're looking the next 4 to 5 laps we'll see something happen, I reckon, Reese.
Yep, we will, for that incident between the 95 and the 261 earlier. No further action from race control, and I think that's a sensible decision. Not entirely clear what happened between those two to actually spin the 95 around, and oh goodness, Jacob is pushing incredibly hard, as you can see. Sparks flying off the walls here. Was right on board again, and yeah, once again he lifts off incredibly early into Forest Elbow, down into first gear. Keep within the slipstream of the two cars ahead. As long as you're within a second of the car in front, you will get the full benefit of the slipstream.
Yeah, I've rode on board this whole lap, and it was 150-ish meters into turn 1 when the fuel saving started. It was another 150 meters into turn 2 when the fuel saving started. It was again before they got to the S's as well, and then you just heard then, I just heard then another big lift into the chase. So it's going to be interesting to see, and again here into the final turn, how much fuel he can save. I'd love to have my hands on the numbers to see exactly what the difference is from race pace to this fuel saving strategy, and you can hear once again that clutch going in and the fuel being saved.
Well, 202.4 for Kwiatkowski versus a 201.4, so he's costing himself a second a lap here to the leaders. And I'm thinking now, timing is showing me 10 laps to go, including the lap that we're on. The PGZ car has completed 24 laps, so that's going to result in 34 laps to this stint if he's trying to save to go to the end. Is that even possible? A stint in these cars usually lasts for around 30, 31, maybe 32 laps if you're lucky. So
how many laps do we have under safety car?
At least 2 or 3 that are under safety car, and this is the problem. We didn't realise that he would be doing it. I would have loved to have been on board during those safety cars exactly how much throttle he actually used to get around the mountain. I assume it was the bare minimum. In fact, he would have been coasting from pretty much this part of the track down to the bottom during those safety car laps. I think it's possible because otherwise he wouldn't be doing it. He would be pushing as hard as he can. If he didn't think he could do it, he would be pushing right now.
And we know from insider info from Dan Yeaman that the Ferrari is pretty good on the fuel mileage. So there's every chance, I think, now that Team PGZ would be able to make it to the end. They would have committed to pushing flat out by now if they had no longer thought it possible.
Yes, 17 minutes to go. So yeah, let's have a look at under caution and let's have a ride with him.
Fourth gear.
As soon as he crests that hill, in goes the clutch.
He knows how much fuel's worth.
They've got to put in some throttle to get up the hill. Otherwise, you just coast to a stop. So yeah, this has been in the works for some time here from the PGZ crew. 16 and a half minutes left in the Logitech G Bathurst 12 hour. And ABB Racing continuing to dominate this race. They lead by 6 seconds over Synergy Sim Racing 89 with Forza El Nabi at the wheel. But these three are as close as they've ever been. This is the fight for third place on track at the moment. And considering how hard Sutton and the like are pushing, I don't know. Would they be saving fuel as well? Will they be able to make it to the end from here?
I don't think Sutton's got any chance. He has to pit at some stage, which is going to be the problem for PGZ. As soon as these two come in, he hasn't got this draft, especially down here, and it'll be interesting to see whether he's got enough in the bank to go for it. I'm just watching Josh Anderson on the other screen, and he's going sideways through places like the Dipper at the moment. There's no extra speed left in his bank as he goes past pit lane yet again for the 25th time or 26th time now as he crosses the start-finish line. Couple laps to go, like you said, about 7 or 8 to go. He's got about 4 or 5 maybe left in him. 3 laps splash and dash, about 35 seconds. It's going to be here we go. There is the first of that pack, the 707. Tom Freer is in. This is going to make a difference for PGZ. We'll have to hold on to the back of Sutton now, make that a little bit harder to get that fuel save. But we'll interest to see. Let's see where Freer comes out. Braden, I think that's going to be the telling factor because they're about, 16, 18 seconds behind ABB at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just intently watching my JRT numbers that have got into their box, as we can see on the right-hand side of the screen there, and they're going to be stationary for around... Oh, and I'm getting told that they might be actually doing a driver swap, so that's going to add quite a bit of time to this final stop. Obviously not ideal, but must be pushing pretty close to some maximum stint lengths or total laps turn, because that's going to make this a much longer pit stop than it needed to be.
Yeah, well, Matthew Bowler's just gone past them, and he was the one who hasn't got a piece of leading car of the cars that do not have to pit, unless PGZ doesn't pit. But also Dennis Gaderick in the Pulsar Chuka has gone past as well, and the other Evolution car. So they've lost at least 3 positions out of that from cars that had already pitted and are filled to the end. So that's an interesting call there, getting Jordan Ross in, a great driver in his own respect, but added time to the pit stop, and that was actually, let's have a look here, 54 seconds to transit according to my data, which is about 20 seconds longer than we expected to see a car on pit lane race. That's caused trouble for them, unfortunately.
It has. Well, yeah, putting that driver swap in definitely costing them there. And it doesn't look like they had any real reason to make a driver change in any case. They might be hoping that Jordan Ross is able to put in some hard yards and do some absolutely stonking lap times towards the end. The Shakedown Sim Racing car, meanwhile, coming up on the 957 Mercedes. And this is going to be the first time in a while that the number 44 will be looking at making a pass for position on pace alone. Bailey Stephen is currently at the wheel of this purple Ferrari, who was the first car to burn their fast repair. Big incident on the very first racing lap at the chase. And they remain in 16th place. Their highest position so far, 15th. They will get that back if they can catch up to Simon Chadwick in that 957 Mercedes.
I think they'd be extremely happy with the result if they can come home in this position. They are filled to the end too, so there is probably not many cars in front of them that they can overtake, but that's a great effort for them. From where they had and the trouble they've had today, that you've got to be happy with at the end of 320 plus laps to be battling for 15th position on track. Is a very, very good effort from those guys. Braden, mate, if we ever get to that, I'll be extremely happy, and I'll be cracking a drink afterwards for sure to celebrate.
That we definitely will be doing as we head up Mountain Straight yet again with the Mercedes car of the 95 SimSport team. Chadwick, followed by that Shakedown Sim Racing Ferrari in a very bright purple livery. As we jump on board with him, in fact, you can see just trying to dig into the camber of turn 2, and looks like he's going to have a run and thinks better of it though, and does back out just a little bit as we head up into the cutting. Not a place where you want to get it wrong. And we head over across our way up the top of the mountain where it's pretty much flat out. As we've said quite a few times, you bring yourself really close to the wall on the outside there of the Fujitsu sign.
Aiden Snell's pitting, by the way. He's another one of the front runners that has finally blinked and going to the splash and dash. The transit time here is the all-important thing for ABB, but I'll let you go, Braden, sorry.
That's okay. It will be interesting to see exactly how long that pit stop does take, as we were going to try and do some maths based on the Synergy car, but with that driver swap, it kind of threw our numbers out a little bit. As we head down through Forest Elbow, and we do see that car now coming back out, the 952 of
Matthew Bowler.
He does come out ahead of Matthew Bowler. So that pit stop there was 32.1 seconds from lane transit. Obviously, you do cut a little bit of time out here at Bathurst as you negate having to take the final turn. So maybe around 30 seconds overall for that pit stop. So be interesting to see exactly where these rest of these teams shake out once they have done their final stops, with just gone under 10 minutes to go in this race.
And we keep our eye on the 44 as they chase down the 957. Simon Chadwick now having to keep an eye on his mirrors because here comes Bailey Stephen. Hard on the brakes into Hell Corner. Got to maintain the momentum through that turn. It's quite difficult to get right. Definitely the first and last corners on this lap are much more difficult than they look from above. And a little bit of weaving going on there as well as Stephen tries to unsettle Chadwick. Pretty good exit from the cutting. From Griffin's Bend. I always end up calling the cutting. The corner or two too early. And it looks like Chadwick a little bit wide, yes, on the exit of the cutting as well. So Bailey Stephen could fancy a move here. He just needs to nail the exit from Forest Elbow because, God forbid, you try a move in this part of the track. It rarely ends well for both drivers. We'll have to wait and see what this Shakedown Sim Racing crew can do.
Chadwick will be thinking, I've stuffed that run up out of the cutting now. I've got to get this part of the race here, the track here, the S's, the Dipper, and then into Forest Elbow. Perfect. So I can get enough of a gap to stay away. I'm impressed that neither of these guys have made a mistake here across that since that point. Both of them would have been having that moment there well in their mind. Can the 44 of Bailey Stephen get enough of a run here? Looks like he's close enough. Looks like he can get the run. Will he dive? Will he? Or making it hard. Chadwick is, but no, Chadwick gives him the spots. That's not the place to overtake Bailey, but you've made it and you've got it done. Well done and good job on getting up to the 15th, your equal high spot for the 12 hours with 7.5 minutes just about to go.
692's done their final pit stop and they've come out in P11, so 33.7 seconds of stop or of pit lane time for them as we see the leaders still running. And will we see them into the pits this time around? Yes, we will.
All right.
Go, race on, boys.
Yeah. Race on indeed. We'll go to a side-by-side as well. The SSR Wave Runner 89 of Forza Nel Nabi also comes in. What will the TriStar Racing car do? And Team PGZ as well. Sam Sutton stays out for another lap. And of course, so does Jakub Kwiatkowski. So now the PGZ car will make their way through, and the TriStar Racing 222 as well. No fuel saving for Sam Sutton, at least not that he can reliably do, as the 36 emerges from the pits behind them. Nice quick pit stop there for Joshua Anderson. 7.1 seconds stationary.
Just in the background there, we missed, unfortunately, the Rusty's guys took a big spin out of Murray's and almost blocked the track. But they are racing again. They lost a significant amount of time. But, yeah, it was. I couldn't bring it up because this was so fascinating. Now, Josh Anderson is 4.5, 5 seconds ahead behind Sam Sutton, who has Jacob on Pete from PGZ on his tail. This is the battle for the lead here. Josh Anderson does not have to worry about a fuel unless he tried to save as much time as he can and short filled, which I doubt. This is going to be race on for the next 5.5 minutes. Braden, what do you expect? Do you think PGZ pushes it and coasts down to the end, or we see them fall into the clutches pretty quickly?
Yeah, well, I think we've got about 3 laps left when we hit the line this time around. It'll all depend on how much fuel saving this Team PGZ has been able to do. Have they been able to save enough where they can go hammer and tongs for the last couple of laps, as we see the Rusty's car getting themselves into that little bit of a problem there. Oh, no. Oh, that's a big hit. Doesn't take much to get those tyres on the grass there, and very easy to find yourself in the pit wall. But yeah, as we're saying, it's going to be about if they've managed to save enough where they can run hard for the last maybe lap at least to try and hold off the fast closing Josh Anderson. But I think it's going to be a tough order if not, as the TriStar car does come into the pits. So there's no one to save behind now, and we're about to find out, Reese, whether they've got enough fuel to go hard and keep this 36 at bay, or whether it's going to be a slow and painful death, so to speak.
Yep. 3 laps to go, my timing is telling me, with 4.5 minutes remaining on the clock, and the gap between PGZ and ABB is 3.9 seconds. We will see what the pace differential is like on this lap. Remember, Josh Anderson doesn't have to do any fuel saving here. He's done his splash and dash. He's been able to go to the end now. But Jakub Kwiatkowski has been saving fuel this entire stint since the safety car, possibly even earlier.
He definitely hasn't made the mistake that Jamie Whincup did, and he's definitely put as much effort into saving fuel as possible. So it'd be interesting to see if we have a similar result towards the end. Are we going to see the Team PGZ car limping its way around on that final lap? He's continuing that fuel saving as well as we go across the top of the mountain. 3.5 seconds is all that separates that 36 ABB racing car from Team PGZ. And this is going to be a tight finish.
I was there too, 2014. I was at Murray's Corner when Whincup went up and barely came back. It was a magical moment, and this is all the trimmings of that right now. Josh Anderson really needs to be taking out more than a second a lap. They're coming down at the moment. We'll get a good indication of where he's at for this in about 30 seconds, and we'll know, but at least a second a lap he needs to be pulling, if not more. But then he's got to get past, and if Jakob's got enough fuel in when he finally catches up to him, he can make that Ferrari really wide. So it's going to be interesting. 2 to go. Two laps to go. So it's a 3-second lap race. 3-second gap race with 2 laps to go, a 1.5 to go. Oh, walk us up this hill.
Yeah, all right. So 3 seconds is the gap. 1.4 seconds gained by ABB Racing on that previous lap. Take another 1.3 out of that. You got 1.6, 1.7. So this is really going to come down to how much fuel does Team PGZ have left in their tank. Can they pull out the stops and pick up the pace on the final lap? Or as Josh Anderson gets back into the rhythm, will he be able to take another few tenths out of it? 2:01.176 was Josh Anderson's time there. And my goodness, what an incredible fight this is going to be. Yeah, it is growing a little bit there across the top of the mountain and down through the S's, but then down to 2.7 again. That is where the fuel saving comes into play. Big clutching happening there.
There's still the chance, Reese, that he doesn't make it like Whincup did.
Yeah.
Here's his edge seat stuff. You can see that number drop massively, and it'll drop even further here, Braden. Oh, what do you do? Like, if you spotter in the ear, do you just give him the numbers or just let him go?
I think you pray, Wilco. I think you pray. There's not much else you can do. I must say, if he's able to pull off this final stint and get the win here, this will be one of the most incredible drives I've seen in my short time on sim racing. And it's definitely going to go down in folklore for the Bathurst 12-hour for OSR, that's for sure. Reese, it's the white flag. I think it's only fair that you run us through this final lap and see what happens.
Well, start-finish line for Jakub Kwiatkowski and for Josh Anderson. Into Hell Corner they go. And if the PGZ car was not good on fuel, they would have come in at the end of that lap. They're probably just having their fingers crossed here. Hopefully they don't choke on the way down to Murray's. It's going to be borderline for that 111 car. The view from Anderson on the right-hand side, you can see the gap gradually closing. It's down under 2 seconds now. Can Josh Anderson make up 1.8 seconds in 2/3 of a lap at the Mount Panorama circuit? That's the primary question on my mind. How much pace does Kwiatkowski have to give up here? Across the top of the mountain they come.
That was a mistake from Josh on the way up through the cutting. He's lost time.
Just a little bit. The gap is
wide.
up to 2.6 seconds now. And so early is Kwiatkowski coasting down the hill. They might have just done it. I'm listening. Look at how much. Oh, you can hear it. There's no sound coming from that engine. Gotta nail the exit. Onto Conrod Straight. The gap is back down to 1.7 seconds, and Kwiatkowski is gaining on acceleration over Josh Anderson. It's all going to come down to these last couple of braking zones. 253, 260 Ks an hour. Yeah, it's looking like, big early lift into the chase. Just a few more corners to go for Team PGZ. Can they get it done? It's all going to come down here to the final braking zone. Lift off early and hope that ABB Racing BMW doesn't pass you. The checkered flag is out, and they've done it. Team PGZ with Jacob Kwiatkowski at the wheel for the final section of the race, joined by Simon Nicholson and Brad Newman. They are your winners for the 2023 OSR Logitech G Bathurst 12 Hour. What an incredible performance there.
How far does he get this car before it stops is the next question. Let's go back to the cars that are still racing. You got a great job here from the 262 to actually come back to get a 5th position here as they cross the line with Hayden Snell behind. That's a very good effort from 262 from the race they've had. And there we go. PGZ not even going to get to the bump in the hill, unfortunately. So that's the end of their race. Luckily, that is amazing, Reese. That's a story and a half we'll get to in a moment as we celebrate the rest of these cars who have put in just an absolute massive effort to get these cars home over 12 hours. We're talking 20 cars are still going around. 17 of those are still on the lead lap. If you finish the 12 hours, you get a top 17 out of 30 odd cars that started this race. So very, very good effort to all those involved, Reese. I'll let you wind this up a little bit more before we get back to the winners and talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, across the line, these guys will come. The 268 chasing down 95 Simsport 957. Lockhart Brownlee could not get past in the end, and Simon Chadwick will bring that car to a 15th place finish. Last couple of finishes here. Looks like Rusty's Racing is going to be the last car to cross the line there. 17th at the very end. And everyone lining up on Mountain Straight, or a couple of drivers anyway. The drop bear cars are pushing each other along a little bit. But what a finish indeed. Evolution Racing Team 262 makes it to 5th place in the end. The 261, despite their issues, comes home in 8th as well. Probably not what ERT would have wanted considering their qualifying performance, but they should be happy that they made it to the finish. Here are the official results. Nicholson, Newman, and Kwiatkowski are your winners, with Anderson, Bird, and Burse making it 2nd place. The gap was under a second at the very end. Burke, Briggs, and El Nabi are going to bring the SSR Wave Runner car home in 3rd place, which is where they started. Good stuff from them. Brilliant drive, meanwhile, from the 222 TriStar Racing car. They come home in 4th place. Arnold Williams and Sutton driving really well there with the 262, as I mentioned, recovering to that 5th place despite plenty of issues along the way. The 952 BMW, meanwhile, that's Hayden Sell, Brad Ratu, and Simon Mazzomo. They come home in 6th place. They should be happy with that result. John Merrick, Dennis Gatterick, and Glenn Riddell bring the Pulse Echuca Toyota home in 7th place. They would have expected better, but unfortunately staying out under the safety car and not quite saving enough fuel ended up putting them in that position. Piesnik, Gasul, and Costello, they were contenders for victory. Who knows what kind of result we would be looking at if they had had slightly better luck along the way. Tom Freer, Jordan Ross, and Kenneth Ladder in 9th place in the other SSR Wave Runner car, the 707. And then the Crisscross Racing entry of McCartan, Hughes, and Barber, they come home in the top 10, which I think is a really good result for them, considering it's around about where they started. Wilco, what did the next lot of results look like?
Yeah, that's a great finish from those guys, to be honest. Broadcar, Holiday, and Styles from Drop Bear and Cosi come home in 11th position. Edwards, Farwell, T-Styles in Whitey's Pies after their little incident with the penalty for the driver times comes home in 12th. Grotch, Hasler, Oliver in Frog Leap Racing, Juiced Racing Blue in 13th. Stoddard, Holly, Stephen and Ward in Shakedown Sim Racing. What a great effort from them. The 44 getting it home in 14th position after 12 hours the start they had. Chadwick, Schulz, Harrison in the 9-5 SimSport entry with the 957 in 15th position. Brownlee, Potts, Springs for Taipan Esports Racing in 16th. Bailey, Kelly, Duffett in Rusty's Racing had a very ups and down day. I think they'd be a little bit upset with the 17th considering where they were sitting, but at the end of the day, what a great result. Finishing on the lead lap, the last car on the lead lap, in fact. Yeaman, Capel, Sweeney and Dance, unfortunately, a lap down in the DBM Beyond Blue entry after that little incident, the cutting. Chris Dale, Ridley, Hunt from Frogleaf Racing, Juiced Racing Black, 4 laps down there. And Tucker, Capozzi and Muir in that TriStar Racing after we got to chat to them after the war. Hate them for breakfast, unfortunately, finishing in 20th. Braden, do you want to finish us up?
Yeah, unfortunately, now we head into the retirements to finish off today. WMB SimSport with McLean, Biancucci rather, and Woodburn, 35 laps down. OPR, powered by Fast Adjusters, 56 lap down. ANZ Motorsports, 66 laps down. Race on Oz, they had a tumultuous day earlier on as well, 71 laps down. Crisscross Racing, the 22 from Crisscross, not having as much luck as their sister car, 72 laps down. HTS Racing Yellow, 87 laps down. And then we got the plus 100 lap cars of Rapid Theft Racing, Team Jinx Shifters, Fishy Motorsport, and DG Motorsports, all over 100 laps down. And couple more to get through. The Frog Leap Juiced Racing Red and Mac 1 Esports finishing our last car, 207 laps down on the leaders.
Well, we can bring in now our race winners here. Brad Newman, Simon Nicholson, and Jakub Kwiatkowski all joining us here in the commentary booth now for the only driver interview we're going to have time for. Congratulations on winning the Logitech G OSR Bathurst 12-hour, guys. An absolutely magnificent performance, particularly in that final stint. Jacob, would you be able to talk us through what was going through your mind on that final stint and exactly how much fuel was left in the car when you crossed the line?
Across the line we had 0.1 liter.
Oh.
And what was going in my mind? Nothing. I just had to use my clutch. I bought double clutch wheels, so I used it all today. I'm proud of myself.
As you should be, mate. That was an incredibly excellent drive there. So, going to Brad for a second, could you give us some insight into what the team decision was under that final safety car to stay out? Were you guys thinking that you were taking a chance, or did you have a plan in motion for that?
The plan was to save, and then it was to go flat out, and then it was to save, and then it was to go flat out. We sort of ended up somewhere in between for a while.
Well, at the end of the day, you guys come away with victory. And going to Simon, if you can get us for a second, Simon. If not, Brad can answer as well. No, we do have Simon. How does it feel for you guys, knowing that you guys were running in the top 5 for the majority of that opening part of the race, and you were in and around this top group? How does it feel to come away with that victory by stealing it under fuel?
Yeah, it's an amazing feeling. We went into the event. Well, we thought we had a good car going into the event, but after the qualifying and all that, we're like, okay, we're struggling with this car now. So it was good to come down to strategies like that to actually bring the Fefe on top, which was amazing, and nail biting at the end.
Yeah, as it was for us too. The gap under a second at the very end. Before we let you go, Brad, I'll leave it to you to thank who you guys need to thank for your top step on the podium.
I was a guest of the PGZ boys this weekend, so I think they should probably sort that one out if one of you boys wants to do that.
The floor is yours, guys.
Yeah, just like to thank the whole Team PGZ Twitter, Cameron, sponsoring the team, Pablo for all the work he does, all the streaming, the publicity he gets, helps the team along a lot. Thanks all.
Well, Jakob, Simon, and Brad, big congratulations from all of us at SimSpeed TV once again. We'll leave you guys to enjoy your victory there, and that is going to wrap things up. Unfortunately, we don't have time to talk to the other drivers on the podium, though we do have to give a big shout out to Team ABB. Though they did not cross the line in first place at the end, they were certainly the drivers to watch tonight, and that was perfectly timed. A great angle of the jump at the chase. Well, I think that's going to wrap things up here, guys. Wilco, Braden, what a fantastic finish to that race, and I certainly didn't expect that. I'll start with Wilco first for your closing words.
I don't know what to say, Reese, except for very well done for PGZ, and that's just, when you do the numbers and you finish a race like that, there's no better feeling. Rusty's on that jump they did just beforehand in the background, nailed the landing, really well done. Thank you guys. That was an amazing 3 hours. The race that OSR put on yet again for Logitech G, Bathurst 12-hour, just purely professional stuff. And to come down to that on strategy, so good. Braden, mate, what do you think of that race? Give us the wrap up.
Yeah, just another quality event run by OSR, and for every positive story like Team PGZ, there's obviously a bit of heartbreak for those in the ABB car. So, for 12 hours of racing to come down to less than a second just goes to show the quality of the field, and what an amazing day.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic stuff from all of the teams out there for making it as far as they did and for giving us a fantastic show. I want to thank Wilco, Braden, Dan Yeaman, and Scott Rankin as well for joining us in the commentary booth for today's coverage, and of course to Jake Sperry as well for taking us through the qualifying session yesterday. Brilliant job, mate. Hope we can see you in the commentary box at SimSpeed again very soon. And also a big thanks to Jay Kennedy for getting everything done behind the scenes and bringing you these magnificent pictures. From an event perspective, we want to thank Oceanic Sim Racing for putting this event on in the first place. It has quickly become one of the premier events of the AusNZ iRacing community. And we want to give a big thanks to Logitech G for their title sponsorship of this event. Thank you for your support, guys. And to Bowler Media as well. Matthew Bowler, of course, running a little photography business on the side as well. He'll be making some very nice looking screenshots of the racing action in the days to come. From all of us at SimSpeed TV, we say thank you for watching. Give us a follow. Make sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to us on YouTube. From myself, Reese Gardner, we say thank you very much and goodbye.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.